Lacking food, he could only rely on ginseng to stave off hunger each day. When thirsty, he could only drink melted snow water from Changbai Mountain. Unexpectedly, this life of hardship and exposure didn't break the young man. Instead, it forged him a strong and healthy physique. The young man had lived in Gongjia village with his father since childhood. Because there were rumors that his father was a deserter from the battlefield, after his father's death, the boy suffered constant bullying from the villagers. Only a brother and sister treated him like family and took care of him. That day, his older sister suddenly found the boy and asked him to return to the village. His sister specially pleaded with the village head to allow him to return to the village for a family reunion. As soon as the two entered the village, villagers pointed at the boy. The boy was used to it, he held his head in his arms and didn't care. His sister, however, kept smiling apologetically at everyone. Suddenly, someone blocked the siblings' path. This person was the village head's grandson, also the village bully. Without a word, the bully grabbed the boy's collar. I was about to start when someone grabbed my clothes and lifted me up. It was my sister's younger brother, Gong Chishan. Not wanting to offend the village head, my sister quickly asked Chishan to let go. Obediently, Chishan let go, throwing the village bully out. The bully flew out, smashing the nearby fence to pieces. Seeing his grandson thrown out like a dead dog, the village head, who had arrived on the scene, was furious. Chishan paid no attention to the village head's cane striking down. Instead, he pulled out a bamboo scroll from his bosom and handed it to the village head. He claimed it was a letter the local official had instructed him to deliver. After receiving the scroll, the village head quickly turned his back to examine it. Unsuspecting, the Gong siblings turned to leave. Only the young boy thoughtfully gave the village head a deep look. After reading the contents of the bamboo scroll, the village head appeared extremely shocked. He immediately turned around to ask Chishan if he had seen the contents. But he found that the three siblings had already gone far and were nowhere to be seen. Meanwhile, in the blood and tears plain of Fushun, Liaoning, a grand martial arts competition is underway. The Murong family, who once dominated the north, suddenly closed their doors for 10 years, leaving the northern martial arts world leaderless and in chaos. The Dali Fortress and the Dragon Fairy Manor are the two strongest factions, so they have decided to settle the matter of supremacy through a martial arts competition. On the hillside, an old beggar drinks wine. While observing the situation on the field, this person is Elder Hong Wu Kuei of the Xiabang, who traveled a great distance to watch the battle. The two in the arena instantly clashed swords, engaging in fierce combat. Iron Manor Lord's Dragon Elephant Sword is praised for its overwhelming might. One Manor Lord's heroic martial Dao is renowned as an unparalleled, domineering blade. Hong Wu Kuei watched, secretly admiring in his heart. The two truly live up to their reputations. Just as the two were fighting to a standstill, an elderly man, hands behind his back, arrived through the air. The old man stood beside the bronze statue on the mountaintop. He quietly watched the two people fighting in the arena. He was completely unconcerned by Hong Wu Kuei's monster-like stare. Meanwhile, Hong Wu Kuei's heart was already churning with turmoil. He possessed extraordinary skills and sharp senses. Although he had been distracted by the fight in the arena, he only noticed the old man's presence when he approached. Suddenly, the old man's gray eyebrows furrowed slightly. A light palm pressed gently onto the bronze statue. His other hand rested on his chest. Clearly, an old injury was acting up. The old man gritted his teeth, desperately suppressing the pain within him. A surging wave of internal energy involuntarily surged from his right palm, crashing into the statue. Moments later, the old man's expression was one of despair, his eyes filled with resentment. Meanwhile, Hong Wu Kuei was utterly shocked. The old man was clearly standing beside him, yet he couldn't sense his presence at all. At that moment, the old man suddenly blurted out a sentence. "My successor will return." Having said that, the old man lightly tapped the ground with his toes, sprang up, and in an instant, he had soared tens of feet away and disappeared. Hong Wu Kuei was about to call out to the old man and ask what he meant, but a sight he caught from the corner of his eye made his pupils shrink abruptly. He saw that the originally sturdy bronze statue was now twisted into a heap of scrap metal. The powerful blue energy still raged and assaulted the statue. Hong Wu Kuei was speechless at this sight. If the old man's palm had landed on a person just now, he dared not imagine the consequences. Meanwhile, the young man followed the Gong siblings back home. Gong Chishan suddenly asked his sister if she had a sweetheart. His sister's face flushed slightly at his words. She said he was a silk merchant, and they had only met a few times. The boy sighed softly after hearing this. He knew that if it weren't for him being a burden, with his sister's breathtaking beauty, suitors would have already overrun their doorstep. That night, after he and his sister had gone to bed, the boy quietly got up, and went out of the house alone, carrying his bow and arrows. Unexpectedly, he was stopped by Chishan just as he left. The boy explained that he wanted to go into the mountains to gather ginseng to add to his sister's dowry. Chishan's gaze pierced through the boy's thoughts. It showed that regardless of whether his sister married or not, this would always be his home. The boy raised his hand, then turned and walked up the mountain. Meanwhile, inside the house, his sister quietly opened her eyes. Changbai Mountain. The boy had been searching the mountain all day. As the sun set, he still hadn't found anything. Suddenly, the boy's eyes lit up. He had actually found 2 ginseng plants growing together, a mother plant and a daughter plant. But in the blink of an eye, the sun had set. Thick fog rolled in, making it impossible to descend the mountain. The boy was about to find a place to spend the night, when he suddenly noticed a campfire in the distance. He cautiously approached and discovered an old man sitting cross-legged under a tree. This person was the mysterious old man who had appeared at Blood Tear Ridge earlier. The boy saw, in this rarely visited mountain, an old man suddenly appeared, arousing his suspicion. But the old man had already noticed the boy peeking at him. He said he would drag him out himself if he didn't come out. The boy hurriedly emerged from the bushes, claiming he meant no harm. He asked the old man if he could spend the night there. The old man gave the boy a cursory glance. He seemed to have accepted the boy's request. By the bonfire, the boy picked some mushrooms and roasted them. He offered the old man a string of grilled mushrooms as a token of thanks. After receiving them, the old man chewed each bite 36 times before swallowing. Seeing this, the boy couldn't help but ask if he didn't like the taste. The old man explained that he did it simply to allow his body to fully absorb the nutrients from the food. This way, even a small amount of food could satisfy his body's needs. The old man and the boy chatted by the bonfire. During this time, the old man asked the boy, "Why is an outsider living in Gongjia village?" Mentioning this, the boy awkwardly scratched his head, saying it was because he had promised his father he wouldn't leave the village. The old man keenly sensed the boy's evasiveness, but seeing the boy's embarrassment, he didn't say anything more. The boy vaguely glossed over his own background, then asked the old man why he was in this remote, rarely visited mountain. But unexpectedly, the old man made a shocking statement, saying he was seeking death. The young man was shocked and hurriedly tried to persuade the old man. "I have an old ailment and my life is not long, but before I die, I must take revenge on the enemy who ruined my family years ago. So, young one, you needn't try to dissuade me any further. Death is my destiny." After hearing this, the young man was at a loss for a moment. After the old man finished speaking, he closed his eyes and said no more. Seeing this, the boy could only sigh softly. The night passed without incident. The next morning, the boy quietly got up and left. He secretly left a ginseng plant beside the campfire, but he didn't know that a group of people had rushed to Gongjia village overnight. Their leader was a Yuan dynasty envoy with a scar on his face. Their real purpose for this trip was to choose a princess. This is a 100-year-old ginseng worth thousands of gold taels, but the young man gifted it to a complete stranger, an old man. What he didn't know was, this old man was Han Wuwa, the top martial artist of northern China. Before leaving, Shan Xiaoyu secretly glanced back at the old man. Although he didn't know what the old man had been through, he hoped the old man could benefit from the ginseng. He clung to life to fulfill his last wish. Suppressing his thoughts, Shan Xiaoyu walked towards the village. But upon arriving, he found the village deserted. A slight alarm flickered in Shan Xiaoyu's heart, completely unaware of someone approaching from behind. The next second, he was struck hard on the back of the head by the village bully. The powerful blow instantly knocked him to the ground. Immediately afterward, the bully mounted him and held him down firmly. At that moment, the villagers, who had been hiding beforehand, surrounded him. The village head bluntly stated that his sister would be offered as a princess, candidate to the Yuan dynasty envoy. The clerk's letter informed the village head that the envoy was about to arrive at Gongjia village. "I know you siblings are close, but before the envoy arrives, I must lock you up." Upon learning the truth, Shan Xiaoyu's eyes burned with shame and rage. He struggled desperately to get up, but the village bully held him fast. In a moment of urgency, Shan Xiaoyu bit down hard on the village bully's finger. The latter, in pain, was forced to release Jia Jiaofang's hand. But unexpectedly, as soon as he let go, Shan Xiaoyu used an elbow to strike him in the face. Shan Xiaoyu, having landed a blow, immediately retrieved his bow and arrow. He then closed the distance with a flying knee, sending the village bully flying. Immediately afterwards, he kicked him to the ground. He aimed his bow and arrow at the village bully's head. The village bully trembled with fear and begged for mercy. But the village head shouted to stop him, saying that this would endanger the entire village. Unexpectedly, in his rage, Shan Xiaoyu suddenly shot an arrow. The arrow flew past the village head's withered cheek. It precisely knocked the village head's walking stick far away. The village head's old face was cut by the arrow. He looked with lingering fear at the boy who, for so many years, had been subjected to bullying. Shan Xiaoyu, however, gritted his teeth, his tone chilling. "No matter how you bully me, I'll endure it. But you dare not touch a single hair on my sister's head. I'm taking my sister and leaving Gongjia village right now. Anyone who dares to stop me will face more than just a scratched face." Having said that, Shan Xiaoyu left everyone behind and ran straight home. The village bully got up and shouted, about to give chase, when several warhorses suddenly charged into the village. It was the Yuan dynasty envoys who had arrived to take them away. But Shan Xiaoyu rushed home at lightning speed. His unsuspecting sister cheerfully greeted him. Shan Xiaoyu briefly explained the situation to his sister. Without waiting for her to react, He grabbed his sister and fled into the mountains. On their way into the mountains, Shan Shayu was suddenly startled. He saw a group of people, surrounded by villagers, heading towards his sister's house. The leader was none other than the Yuan dynasty envoy. At that moment, the envoy suddenly glared at Shan Shayu. The latter was startled into a cold sweat by the envoy's sinister gaze. He hurriedly pulled his sister and fled into the dense forest on the mountain. The envoy also gave orders to his 2 attendants. Kill the man, but don't harm the woman. She may become our princess in the future. The 2 subordinates respectfully accepted the order, leaped onto their horses, and the next second, they darted away under everyone's shocked gaze. He soon caught up with the fleeing siblings. Shan Shayu, remaining calm under pressure, instantly knocked an arrow. An arrow immediately shot towards the 2. Unexpectedly, a subordinate drew his long sword with a clang. Immediately, he twisted his waist and turned in midair. He cleaved the arrow in 2 with a single stroke. Shan Shayu's heart trembled at this sight. Before he could react, the opponent was already upon him. He struck him in the face, forcing him to the ground. Seeing this, his sister cried out in fright. But another person, like a ghost, flashed before her and covered her mouth and nose. After subduing Shan Yu, the first attendant's eyes narrowed. Without hesitation, he plunged his long sword towards the boy's head. Just then, a huge iron fist slammed into his cheek. The newcomer was Gong Qishan, returning from chopping wood in the mountains. He saw his remarkably skilled companion sent flying with a single punch. The attendants, seeing their master controlling the elder sister, their faces changed drastically. The rescued Shan Yu quickly explained the situation to Qishan. Learning that these people were going to drive his sister away, Qishan flew into a rage. He immediately drew the dagger from his waist and was about to kill the 2 men. But the attendant who took a heavy punch from Qishan seemed completely unharmed. He even turned around, holding his knife, and charged again. Qishan swung his hand and threw a bundle of firewood weighing dozens of kilograms at him. But the attendant easily split it in 2 with a single strike. At that moment, the first attendant's eyes suddenly narrowed. He quickly raised his blade to block Qishan's powerful axe blow. Although Qishan possessed incredible natural strength, his combat experience was far inferior to his opponent's. The first attendant parried the axe with his blade, using the recoil to pivot. His long blade whistled through the air, instantly slashing towards Qishan's neck. But just then, a foot landed on Qishan's shoulder. Shan Shayu, using his foot as leverage, leaped upwards. 2 feathered arrows were already aimed at his opponent. The boy, without hesitation, fired a volley of arrows from his bow. Seeing this, the guard was greatly startled and terrified. He quickly retracted his sword to defend himself, barely deflecting 2 arrows. But unexpectedly, Qishan's iron fist arrived at that moment. A powerful punch slammed into his lower abdomen. The force was so fierce that his face contorted. The next second, he flew backward like a broken kite. He crashed into a large tree before regaining his footing. But before he could recover, an arrow shot towards his head with great speed. The bodyguard managed to dodge the arrow by quickly turning his head. But the next second, he felt a sharp pain in his right leg. Another arrow had pierced through his right leg. Seeing his companion injured, the other bodyguard was shocked and terrified. At that moment, a cold voice echoed. "A bunch of good-for-nothings. You can't even handle 2 children." The 2 brothers trembled at these words. The newcomer was the Yuan dynasty envoy leading the delegation. At this moment, his eyes narrowed slightly, like a tiger eyeing its prey. He was a Yuan dynasty envoy tasked with choosing a consort, but also a peerless military expert. Seeing his 2 subordinates' incompetence, the envoy swept them with a cold glance. One of his subordinates instantly broke out in a cold sweat. The man didn't say anything more, but abruptly stepped forward. The surging power in his body suddenly erupted. A powerful aura radiated outwards, centered on the man. The 2 brothers felt a tremendous pressure bearing down on them. Shan Yu gritted his teeth, desperately resisting the pressure. But Qishan was already unable to withstand the might. He roared, raising his axe to strike the man down. Unexpectedly, the envoy flashed forward in an instant. The next second, a large hand was already pressed against his chest, accompanied by a sudden burst of force from the envoy's palm. Qishan felt a sweetness in his throat and immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. His massive body, like a small mountain, immediately left the ground. Like a broken kite, he flew back more than 10 meters. He even knocked down a large tree as thick as a person's embrace. Fortunately, the tree somewhat slowed his fall. Qishan tumbled to the edge of the cliff and stopped. He saw his brother struck, spitting blood from a palm strike. Shan Shayu, filled with rage and worry, anxiously called out. But the envoy had already darted closer. Shan Shayu reacted swiftly, drawing his bow and knocking an arrow. The next second, the sharp arrow was aimed at the other's head. Without hesitation, the young man loosed the arrow, but the other party reacted even faster, instantly ducking to avoid it. The arrow merely knocked his sable hat off. But the envoy continued his attack, his left palm swiftly extending. He struck Shan Shayu hard in the ribs. The latter, caught off guard, was sent flying backward. Shan Shayu tumbled across the ground like a ball for several meters, seeming to find his heavy sable fur coat cumbersome. The envoy tore it off. Then, his eyes darkened as he looked at the young man before him. The envoy was about to strike down Shan Shayu. Not far away, Chishan struggled to his feet, seeing his brother about to be killed. Chishan roared in anger. Immediately, he dug his 5 fingers into the broken tree trunk beside him. With his superhuman strength, he single-handedly lifted the hundreds of Jin tree. He swung it at the envoy who was approaching Shan Shayu. A huge tree, carrying the force of wind and thunder, crashed towards him. The envoy's eyes narrowed, but he didn't dodge. He clenched his right fist. Veins bulged on his forearm. In an instant, he channeled all his strength into his fist. Then, he unleashed a powerful punch, striking the oncoming tree trunk. The tree was shattered to pieces by his single blow. Fragments of wood rained down. A sneer of disdain curled the envoy's lips. Immediately, his figure shot out like a blur, rushing towards Chishan. Chishan hadn't even had time to react. The envoy's flying knee strike had already slammed into his face. Having landed the blow, the envoy didn't stop. He took another step forward, his foot crashing down hard on Chishan's chest. Seeing this, Dan Shayu roared in anger, struggling to his feet. He shot forward like an arrow from a bow. He kicked at the envoy's head. Sensing the danger behind him, the envoy slightly turned his head and dodged the boy's kick. Then, he punched Shan Shayu in the face. The boy, still in midair, was immediately sent flying. He tumbled once before falling heavily to the ground. Seeing this, his sister's face turned pale, but her mouth and nose were covered, preventing her from making a sound. The envoy slowly walked towards the lone sand dune closest to the cliff, but he was suddenly grabbed by a large hand, tightly clutching his ankle. The envoy looked back and met Chishan's gaze. "You dog official. Even in death, I won't let you kill my brother." "Fine, then I shall grant you your wish. Let's start with you." Having said that, the envoy punched Chishan in the face. But unexpectedly, Chishan seemed completely unfazed. He still struggled to his feet. The envoy's pupils constricted in disbelief at the sight. But he only saw Chishan's face contort, his voice icy. "Dog official, I'll kill you." With that, Chishan abruptly stood up, seizing the envoy's wrist. He unleashed a punch aimed at the other man's head. Unexpectedly, the envoy abruptly broke free. In an instant, he had moved behind Chishan. Immediately, his left hand shot out, seizing Chishan's spine. The next second, he lifted Chishan, who was as big as a small mountain, accompanied by the envoy's left hand continuously exerting force. Chishan let out a shrill scream. But the envoy, ignoring him, slowly walked to the edge of the cliff. A cruel smile curled the envoy's lips. Then he released his hand and threw Chishan off the cliff. Shan Shayu roared angrily and struggled to rush over. But by the time he reached the cliff edge, Chishan had already fallen to the bottom. "You needn't worry. I'll take you to him immediately." The young man ignored the envoy's threats. He still couldn't believe his brother had died before his eyes. Suddenly, Shan Shayu's anger exploded, his face flushed. He suddenly headbutted the envoy, knocking him over. Immediately, he leaped high, raising his right leg. He brought his leg down with ferocious force, smashing the envoy to the ground. In his rage, Shan Shayu was like a madman. Fist after fist slammed into the envoy's face. The two subordinates watching the fight couldn't believe their eyes. Although Shan Shayu was agile, he was definitely no match for the leader. Suddenly, an iron hand firmly grasped the boy's wrist. No matter how hard he struggled, he couldn't shake off the other's grip. A cruel smile appeared on the envoy's face. Immediately, his aura surged. Before Dan Shayu could react, he felt an overwhelming force hit him. And the next second he was easily flung away by the envoy, falling more than 10 meters and collapsing on the ground. The envoy strolled forward, the repeated blows leaving the boy unable to get back up. Wiping the blood from his mouth, the envoy spoke chillingly. "You have guts. I'll leave you a whole corpse." Having spoken, the envoy drew 2 hooks and chains from his waist. With a flick of his wrist, he threw them at the nearby Shan Shayu. The hooks accurately entangled the boy's arms. Immediately, Shan Shayu was hoisted up by the envoy. "If your sister had been fortunate enough to be chosen as a princess, you 2 brothers could have become imperial relatives of our great Yuan. But now, your brother lies dead at the bottom of the cliff, and you will also be hanged to death on this tree. This is all your own doing." Having said that, the envoy ordered 2 subordinates to drag my sister away, leaving only Shan Shayu hanging in the dense forest. Soon, several wolves followed the scent of blood to this place. The pack of wolves saw the boy hanging in midair and revealed their bloodthirsty eyes. A hungry wolf took 3 or 2 steps onto the low tree trunk. Then it leaped and bit at Shan Shayu. Just then, a figure slowly walked closer. It was the old man Shan Shayu had encountered in the mountains last night. The old man's left hand suddenly reached out. A blue wave of chi surged forth, striking the ferocious wolf that lunged at Shan Shayu. Accompanying the old man's sudden clenching of his left hand, the wolf was instantly killed by the domineering chi. Shan Shayu, who had been resigned to death, was quite surprised to see the old man. The old man slowly spoke. Last night, he was still lively and kicking. Now, what a sorry state he's in. The other wild wolves swarmed around the old man. The next second, they scrambled to pounce on him. But the old man remained unfazed, smiling slightly. Powerful and domineering inner energy burst forth from his body. With lightning-fast speed, he brushed past a wolf's mouth. He injected blue chi into the wild wolf's body. Instantly, it was twisted into a mass of flesh and blood. At that moment, a wolf stealthily circled behind the old man. It fiercely leaped, biting at the old man's neck. Unexpectedly, the old man had already sensed it. He abruptly turned and struck out with a palm. His pale palm struck the wolf's back, killing it instantly. The old man moved amongst the wolves as if strolling in a courtyard. In an instant, several wolves were killed. Shan Shayu watched the scene unfold in disbelief. He never expected that the elderly man he'd coincidentally met would be so formidable. At this moment, the elder raised his head, looked at the boy, and spoke softly. "Do you want to live? Even if you will endure pain more terrifying than death. My brothers fell to their deaths from a cliff, and my elder sister, who raised me, was forcibly taken away." At this point, Shan Shayu gave a desolate smile. "Is there anything more painful than what I'm experiencing now?" The old man, hearing this, hesitated no longer. With a flick of his hand, 2 blasts of inner energy shot out. 2 iron chains snapped. The old man caught the boy as he fell. "You are good. Even after so much suffering, you still manage a smile. From today onward, you are my disciple, Han Wubwa." The boy suffered 35 bone fractures and 72 muscle injuries. But his master said that his current condition is very good. Shan Shayu looked at his master with puzzlement. The old man took out the 100-year-old ginseng that Shan Shayu had left him. He then gathered his inner energy in his palm and infused it into the ginseng. A drop of pure ginseng essence was extracted by the old man. After the master dripped the ginseng essence into Shan Shayu's mouth, he slowly spoke. "The human body has 206 bones and 639 muscles. By fully understanding them, you can perfectly control your body. Because you can't move at all right now, your nerves will be abnormally tense and sensitive." Having said that, Han Wubwa extended 2 fingers, consecutively striking many acupoints across Shan Yu's body. Overwhelming true energy instantly filled the young man's limbs and body. It carried the essence of ginseng, repeatedly cleansing his damaged meridians. Concentrate, and feel the flow of the true energy. After opening the 36 acupoints, you will feel the state of your entire body. You will feel how your muscles are interwoven. You will understand how your finger bones control your hand movements, how your joints support you when you run at full speed. You will even hear how your blood flows through your veins. When you fully understand all this, you will have mastered the essence of this martial art. The intense pain caused Shan Yu to cry out in agony. Han Wubwa watched silently, his expression solemn. As the saying goes, destruction precedes creation. Will it be a rebirth, or a lifetime of disability? It all depends on your will. A hint of reluctance flickered in the elder's eyes. "Child, this is the only way for you to inherit the mantle of the Heavenly Soul General." A year later, in the Myriad Immortals cave on Miaoxiang Mountain in northern border, 2 emaciated elders sat cross-legged in the cave, waiting silently. A figure arrived like a gentle breeze. It was Jazuns, the leader of the Northern Frontier Martial Arts Community. It turns out there's a group of people in the Northern Frontier Martial Arts Community, whose martial arts cultivation has reached the pinnacle, entering a realm of carefree transcendence. Among them, the 3 immortals led by Jazuns of Wanxian Cave have the highest cultivation. Jazuns spoke slowly. "The purpose of your visit today is undoubtedly known to everyone. Within a year, 12 people in our northern frontier, the experts of the Xiaoyao Xianjing, have been falling one after another. It all started about a year ago. An old man, accompanied by a young boy, found the 7 Earth Immortal of Tai Ling. The 7 Earth Immortal used his signature technique, summoning rain style. Immense true energy, accompanied by rain and snow, attacked the old man. But the old man simply extended his left hand. Within his palm, it seemed as if wind and thunder were swirling. With a single move, he broke the 7 Earth Immortal's pride, the summoning rain style. The old man's hands moved without stopping. In an instant, he was before the 7 Lands Immortal. With a light palm strike, he effortlessly severed the 7 Lands Immortal's heart pulse. Before the 7 Lands Immortal could react, he was pierced through the chest by a palm strike. Immediately, blood flowed from his 7 orifices, and his life was extinguished. What's even more terrifying is, even after his death, the surging true chi still raged unchecked throughout his body. 2 months later, the old man brought the boy back to Taishanzi. Taishanzi used his famous skill, the Earth Awakening Divine Art. However, the old man seemed to be mocking him. Facing the supposedly unbreakable, boundless wall, he chose to attack it head-on. Similarly, with just one move, he caused the boundless wall to crumble. Then, the old man's finger, like a sharp blade, pierced Taishanzi's palm. With the surging internal energy of the elder flooding in, Taishanzi, who had already entered the realm of carefree immortals, had his bones crushed to powder. After a few breaths, he exploded, leaving no bones behind. Speaking of this, Venerable Zha's voice was low. If those 12 experts all died at the hands of that elder, the situation will be extremely dire. Going on like this, we won't be able to establish a new nation, let alone. I fear our existing power will be greatly diminished. Hearing this, the Haidong Sword Immortal found it unbelievable. In Saibei, no one has ever been able to easily kill a warrior of the Xiaoyao Immortal Realm, while the Konggang Venerable suspected it might be that the royal family had discovered their plan. But he immediately dismissed his own guess. Even the royal family would find it difficult to easily kill a warrior of the Xiaoyao Immortal Realm. At that moment, the Zha Venerable spoke softly. Have you too forgotten that man? 10 years ago, we, along with 30 others, from the Xiaoyao Xianjing, ambushed that man. Not only did we fail to kill him, but we also lost half of our experts. Han Wubwa, the Thunderbolt Hand, that celestial spirit general, returned with his DZ. Meanwhile, deep within a dense forest, Shan Shayu, wearing 2 meteorite iron gloves, prepared for battle. Han Wubwa darted forward fiercely, seeing his master attacking like a tiger descending a mountain. Shan Shayu fearlessly counterattacked. In an instant, master and apprentice were locked in combat. Both fought with speed, evenly matched for a time. For a year, Shan Shayu had been constantly wearing meteorite iron gloves weighing over 80 jin. Han Wu's mastery of the Heavenly Soul Divine Art is already showing initial results. The Heavenly Soul Divine Art has been passed down through a single lineage for 1,000 years. Those who cultivate the Heavenly Soul Divine Art are known as Heavenly Soul Warriors. The Heavenly Soul Divine Art is based on the dislocating bone-breaking technique. It uses one's internal energy to strike the enemy's meridians, thereby destroying the opponent's bones and muscles. Your movements are too slow. Faster. Don't think about the moves with your head. Let your body move spontaneously. It only uses force to break joints and destroy muscles. Shan Shayu quickly used 2 fingers to press on his shoulders, using his own force to dissipate the forceful energy on his arm. Unexpectedly, his master's 2 fingers had already arrived. The next second, he was struck on the forehead and knocked out. Shan Shayu retreated several zhang before he managed to regain his footing. You may feel tired, but your enemy won't. If dozens of people were attacking you, would you wait to die because you're tired? Han Wubwa's words lacked any gentleness. Adjust your breathing, and let's go again. Having said that, his eyes turned an eerie blue. Then, the old man suddenly disappeared from his spot. Shan Shayu's face changed drastically upon seeing this. But the next second, his master's right palm was already pressed against his chest. Accompanied by the sudden eruption of power from Han Wubo's palm, Shan Shayu was blasted away like an arrow from a bow, flying backwards. The young man gritted his teeth, desperately suppressing the force his master had sent into his body. 2 powerful forces collided violently within his body, sending the stones beneath him flying. I also wanted to teach you in a gentler way, but I don't have time. Reflect well, to recover all you've lost. This mountain peak is a martial arts holy land that even the imperial family dares not tread. Yet now, an old man and a young man dare to openly trespass. The mountain guarding monks immediately roared and charged. The young trespasser, however, was fearless and counterattacked. Shan Shayu, like a tiger among wolves, instantly charged into the crowd. Amidst his swift movements, numerous monks couldn't even land a single blow. Han Wubwa looked at his DZ, feeling deeply gratified. But at that moment, a group of warrior monks ambushed him from behind. The monks, wielding long staves, charged towards the elderly man in the distance. Yet Han Wubwa, with one hand behind his back, calmly extended his right palm. A powerful and domineering internal force shot swiftly towards his rear. The ancient, indestructible stone bridge behind him was instantly shattered. The incredibly heavy stone bridge was overturned by the old man with a single palm strike. He effortlessly blocked the pursuers behind him. Soon, the master and disciple crossed the stone bridge. But they found themselves confronted by a large group of martial monks. The leading monk shouted loudly, Han Wubwa, 10 years have passed. What more do you want? Ignoring him, Han Wubwa whispered to DZ beside him, Shayu, this is a personal grievance. If you get involved, their resentment may become your lifelong burden. A teacher is like a father for life. Since it's the master's business, then kill them. I, Xiren, have nothing to fear. Having said that, Shan Shayu gathered his inner strength in his palms. His meteorite gloves couldn't withstand the force and shattered with a bang. Seeing this, the leading monk immediately gave an order. Many monks leaped from the stone platform and attacked the master and disciple. Shan Shayu's inner energy flowed ceaselessly, radiating outwards from his body. He suddenly stepped forward with his right foot. His palms, freed from the meteorite gauntlets, shot out forcefully. 2 powerful blasts of inner force instantly surged forth. In an instant, several monks were sent flying. Seeing his men scattered and defeated by the boy's single blow, the leading monk gritted his teeth, burning with rage. He suddenly leaped into the air. He swung his long staff downwards with force, aiming at the boy. Shan Shayu dodged the monk's powerful downward strike. The iron staff smashed into the ground, causing a loud explosion. Mid-air, Shan Shayu suddenly unleashed a palm strike. A wave of energy shot towards the monk's head. The latter quickly dodged to the side. The forceful energy split the ground, creating a crack. The monk twirled his staff behind his back. Immediately, he grabbed the staff with his backhand and suddenly exerted force. The long staff, like a viper emerging from its hole, darted towards Shan Shayu's chest. Seeing the staff approaching with the force of wind and thunder, a cold smile curled Shan Shayu's lips. Immediately, his right palm swiftly shot out, firmly blocking the staff. Upon seeing this, the monk's face suddenly changed, and at that moment, Shan Shayu suddenly unleashed a burst of energy from his palm. The finely wrought iron staff instantly twisted into a pretzel. The powerful spiral force was too much for the monk to hold, but the monk was quite decisive. He immediately abandoned the staff and chose close quarters combat. Leaping forward, he swept his leg towards Shan Shayu's head, but Shan Shayu was even faster. He struck the monk's knee with a sudden palm strike. His entire lower leg was cleanly severed by the boy. The monk let out a heart-wrenching scream. He then fell towards the stone platform below like a broken kite. In a flash of memory, the monk looked into the young man's eyes. He was startled to find that the other's eyes were an eerie blue. At that moment, Han Wu looked at the monk and spoke softly. "You just advised me to let go of the hatred from 10 years ago. I wonder if you can forgive me 10 years later, for crippling you and leaving you with one less leg. You hypocritical bunch. You've always been so comfortable lecturing others. Today, you'll experience it firsthand. Let's see how compassionate you really are." Having said that, Han Wubwa led Shan Shayu straight towards the Wanxian Cave. Shayu, Wanxian Cave is isolated from the world, an ideal place for martial artists to cultivate. There are pills stored by the three immortals that can serve as food. Dozens of night pearls on the wall. You can use them for travel expenses in the future. Before Han Wubwa could finish speaking, a sudden change occurred. A stone door weighing over 10,000 jin crashed down, sealing the entrance. Faced with this situation, Han Wubwa smiled coldly. "Ting, they always resort to these petty tricks. It's fine, though, Shayu, when you can break open this stone door. Then you will completely inherit the heavenly soul general." With that, the master and disciple dashed into the cave. In a short while, they reached a clearing inside the cave. 3 old men were sitting cross-legged on 3 stone platforms. They were the 3 immortals of the Wanxian Cave, renowned throughout northern China. The leading Zhizun spoke softly. "Thunderbolt Hand, it's been 10 years, hasn't it?" Han Wubai stood proudly and replied coldly, "Zhizuns, we have been waiting day and night for this day to arrive." At this moment, the Vajra master chuckled. "That young man, with his extraordinary physique, should be your disciple, right? It seems you don't care much about your disciple's life. I called him here to give him his final lesson." Having said that, Han Wubwa tore off his robe. The old man's sinewy muscles were crisscrossed with scars. The scar on his heart was particularly shocking and terrifying. "Shayu, from now on, you must remember every move I make. Even the attacks against me are invaluable experience for you." Shayu frowned slightly upon hearing this. He had already picked up on the underlying meaning in his master's words. After a moment of silence, the boy's voice trembled slightly. As soon as Shayu finished speaking, Haidong Jingxian made the first move. With a slight tremor of his left hand, he drew his 3-foot-long green blade, its unsheathing resounding. Driven by his force, the long sword embedded itself in the cave ceiling's rock. In an instant, countless fragments of rock tumbled down, crashing towards Han Wubwa. The other 2, in perfect unison, instantly rose to their feet. 3 top-tier masters launched a combined attack on Han Wubwa. Zhizun suddenly swept his left hand. A powerful force shot out swiftly. Jin Dang Shangren extended 2 fingers, delivering successive strikes in midair. He used his famous skill, the reincarnation Vajra finger. The fog, the wind, and the force of his fingers enveloped Han Wubwa. But Han Wubwa, under attack, let out a light chuckle. He calmly extended his left palm, gathering his immense power within it. Then, he fiercely struck the ground in front of him with his palm. The surging power spread out from him as the center. The entire ground exploded under the force of his palm. Han Wubwa stood there like a god, calm and imposing. Zhizuns watched the scene before him in disbelief. Then Han Wubwa spoke coldly, "Even with my old ailment, killing the 3 of you is no different than slaughtering dogs. This old man, scarred all over, is actually the #1 expert in North China. His martial arts cultivation has reached the pinnacle, almost a martial saint. A casual palm strike possesses the power to move mountains and break rivers." Unexpectedly, this very thing led to the destruction of the old man's family. It all started 10 years ago. The 3 immortals of Wanxian Cave conspired against the TF royal family. They sought out Han Wubwa, inviting him to join them, but he refused. Zhizuns feared that Han Wubwa would disrupt their plans in the future, so he lured Han Wubwa out. He joined forces with 30 experts from the Xiaoyao Shenjing to ambush and kill him. At the same time, Han Wubwa's wife was also assassinated and died tragically at home. His only daughter and her nanny went missing in the chaos. Han Wubwa fought with all his might, killing half of the assassins, but he himself was severely injured in that battle. Although the Heavenly Soul Divine Art is quite effective in repairing meridian damage, a serious injury to his heart meridian, he could only suppress it temporarily, but not cure it. For 10 years, Han Wubwa searched all over the northern frontier, but still couldn't find his daughter. Until later, he heard that his daughter had gone to the Central Plains. Han Wubo had just set off to find the Central Plains. But when passing Blood and Tears Plain, his old wounds suddenly flared up. He realized that he had little time left. He reluctantly returned to the north to find his successor. That's how he happened to meet Shan Shayu in Changbai Mountain earlier. And now, the enemy who had ruined his family was right before him. Han Wubo's eyes were filled with killing intent. He slowly extended his hands. Streams of formidable chi surrounded his arms. Han Wubo suddenly changed his left hand from a palm to a fist. His true chi surged throughout his body like a mighty river flowing eastward. The surging power even swept up the surrounding rubble. The elder launched a fierce punch. Several powerful streams of chi surged forth. The Haidong Sword Immortal, who was in the direct path, quickly dodged. Then, he pressed forward, thrusting his sword towards Han Wubo's head. Unexpectedly, Han Wubo propped up his wrist with his left hand. Immediately, his right palm struck his left arm. The two passed each other. Han Wubo had torn off the left arm of the Haidong Sword Immortal with a single move. The Haidong Sword Immortal let out a pig-like scream. Seeing this, the other two immediately attacked. Han Wubo thrust out both palms. Two domineering streams of chi shot out. As the old man's hands clenched tightly, a powerful energy exploded before them both, sending the kneeling Haidong Sword Immortal, along with the three immortals of the Wanxian Cave, flying backward. The Haidong Sword Immortal, using his sword to brace himself, slid back several meters before regaining his footing. The other two quickly calmed their breathing, desperately using their inner strength to suppress Han Wubo's energy. Han Wubo smirked and chuckled. The three immortals of Wanxian Cave are nothing more. Upon hearing this, Shazuns flew into a rage. King Kong Shangren was equally furious, his hair standing on end. Haitong Xian, with his severed arm, was filled with resentment. At this moment, Shazuns suddenly clasped his hands together, gathering all his strength. His heart meridian is damaged. He can't hold on for long. Let's attack together and exhaust him to death. Having said that, the three of them leaped up and attacked Han Wubo together. But Han Wubo's aura suddenly surged. The old man's tiger eyes shot out sharp beams of light. I don't have much time left. Let's decide this with one move. Shan Shayu stood to one side, silently watching everything. The next second, a powerful wave of energy surged into the sky. The entire cave was leveled by Han Wubo's single strike. The three immortals of Wanxian Cave were already dead. After a while, Shan Shayu found his master in the ruins. Han Wubo is now at the end of his life. Shayu, you needn't grieve. My great revenge is achieved. Death is not a pity. My only regret is that I couldn't find my daughter. If she's still alive, she should be about your age. When she disappeared that year, she was carrying her mother's sword manual. If you ever have the chance to find her, if she's living well, let her continue her simple life. If she's not doing well, help her once, and that's enough. 2 lines of clear tears uncontrollably flowed from Shan Shayu's eyes. He readily agreed to his master's dying request. Shan Shayu leaned against the stone bed and sighed softly. His master's appearance and demeanor were still fresh in his memory, as if it were yesterday. After a while, Shan Shayu respectfully knelt down. The young man paid his respects to Han Wubo's remains with 3 bows and 9 kowtows. Master, I can never repay your life-saving grace. These 10 years, I have never dared to forget your teachings, Master. Speaking of this, the young man couldn't help but burst into tears. After a moment, Shan Shayu slowly rose. Master, now I can say without shame that I am your disciple. The boy's eyes gradually hardened. From this day forward, I am the 35th successor of the Heavenly Soul Warriors. Meanwhile, at the Demon Sealing Temple on Miaoxiang Mountain, an urgent alarm bell suddenly rang out. All the temple's warrior monks, armed with long staves, rushed towards the Myriad Immortals cave. In a short while, hundreds of them were waiting in battle formation at the cave entrance. A tremendous boom echoed from behind the stone gate, which had been sealed for 10 years. It was like a heavy hammer striking the hearts of the many warrior monks. The many warrior monks, not daring to be negligent, quickly assumed their fighting stances. And the impact sounds from the Guman Bureau grew increasingly louder. The violent tremors knocked many of the warrior monks in the front to the ground. The leading one-legged warrior monk was filled with shock and fury. Everyone be careful, Thunderbolt Hand has been resurrected. Unexpectedly, as his words fell, a tremendous explosion erupted out of nowhere. Immense force, carrying with it shattered stones, scattered and flew everywhere. Several low-level warrior monks were thrown to the ground. The leading warrior monk helplessly watched as the stone gate, weighing more than 10,000 houses, collapsed with a thunderous roar. The stone gate, half a meter thick, was actually split in 2 by someone. A smooth, small leg appeared first in everyone's sight. Then a young man in simple clothes walked out of the cave. The young man squinted, adjusting to the outside light. It was Shan Shayu, who had been in seclusion in the Wanxian cave for 10 whole years. Upon seeing the young man's face, the monk was suddenly startled. 10 years ago, his right leg was severed by Shan Shayu. Painful memories flashed through the monk's mind. Shan Shayu muttered to himself, "When did a temple appear here?" At that moment, a monk stepped forward from the crowd. "Young master, this Fengmo temple was built precisely to stop your master from leaving. That's Yuanjin, the abbot of Fenhua temple." The old monk looked at Shan Shayu with a radiant light. "Do you also intend to massacre this place like the thunderbolt hand?" Shan Shayu smiled slightly upon hearing this. "My master's revenge has been avenged, and I have no more heart for killing." Yuanjin was slightly taken aback after hearing this. The young master's answer truly leaves this old monk at a loss. The warrior monk indicated that the other party, being the thunderbolt hand, was simply not trustworthy. But the abbot remained silent and did not order the monks to kill him. Seeing that persuasion was fruitless, the leading monk chuckled coldly. Then, he glared fiercely at Shan Shayu. "For the past 10 years, I have practiced diligently, waiting for this day." The monk suddenly swung his staff, his tone grim. "Don't think you're safe just because you're his. Even if Pixu himself stood before me now, I would still have the strength to fight." Shan Shayu smiled knowingly. 10 years have passed. You still haven't let go of your hatred. Very well, I shall grant your wish. However, please wait a moment. With that, Shan Shayu turned and walked towards the Wanxian cave behind him. The young man looked towards the 3 immortal statues at the cave entrance. He didn't need to be told, he guessed it was these monks who carved them here. Shan Shayu gazed at the statues, his expression growing darker. The boy's fair right hand suddenly extended. Blue energy continuously surged within his palm. Then, Shan Shayu gently pressed his right palm against the mountain wall. Within a second, his whole body's energy was suddenly annealed into his right palm. The fierce and domineering energy exploded on the mountain wall. The surging energy surged upwards from the bottom towards the top of the mountain wall. Immediately, a deafening roar shot straight into the sky. The young man lightly struck the mountain wall with a single palm. The next second, a surging force surged along the mountain wall. Immediately, a deafening roar shot straight into the sky. The 3 immortal statues on the mountain wall instantly exploded. The entire Wanxian cave collapsed in an instant. The one-legged martial monk broke out in a cold sweat at the sight. Yuanjin's heart trembled. He hadn't expected the opponent's heavenly soul divine power knife to have reached such a realm. Shan Shayu, having done all this, turned around and spoke calmly. "I've kept you waiting. Do you want to come one by one, or all at once?" Faced with the boy's calm tone, the crowd fell silent as if struck by frost. Hundreds of people on the mountainside were instantly speechless. After a long while, it was Yuanjin who trembled and spoke. You said you didn't want to create more killings. If I let you go, what will you do?" Shan Shayu crossed his arms, looked at the old monk, and smiled slightly. "This saves me a lot of trouble. I am naturally most grateful." Yuanjin looked deeply at the boy. "Very well, thank you for your generosity, young master. Please go ahead, master." The one-legged monk was about to dissuade him, but Yuanjin bluntly stated that relying solely on his 10 years of arduous training, to try and forcefully contend with the heavenly soul general would be nothing short of a fool's dream. Shan Shayu didn't want to delay any longer and prepared to leave. Hundreds of people watched silently as the young man left, no one stopping him. As he passed the one-legged monk, Shan Shayu spoke softly. "Back then, you obstructed my master's revenge. Crippling your leg wasn't my intention, but I believe our duel was fair. If you still wish for revenge, find me anytime. I'll accept your challenge." Master Yuanjin asked in a clear voice. "Young benefactor, where do you intend to go after descending the mountain?" The young man paused slightly upon hearing these words. "Naturally, I will first fulfill my master's last wish. I will travel to the Central Plains to search for my master's daughter." Master Yuanjin smiled wryly. "It seems the Central Plains is about to be turned upside down." Shayu glanced back at the old monk, neither confirming nor denying. Then, he darted away swiftly. Watching Shan Shayu dash down the mountain, Yuanjin muttered to himself, "This boy's talent is deeply hidden. I fear he has already surpassed his master. Perhaps he will be the strongest heavenly soul warrior in history." In a small mountain stream, Shan Shayu violently shook his long hair and surfaced. He hadn't bathed in 10 years. After washing up, he fished his clothes out of the water, only to find them tattered and unusable. Several priceless night pearls tumbled from his clothes onto the grass. Shan Shayu picked up a jade pendant that had fallen out with the pearls. The young man gazed at the pendant in his hand, lost in thought. After a while, Shan Shayu collected his thoughts. His immediate priority was to find some clothes. At that moment, the aroma of food wafted into his nostrils. Could there be a house nearby? Thinking this, the boy exerted himself and leaped. The next second, a fleeting shadow shot away. In a short while, a simple hut appeared in his sight. Clothes were drying on a rack in the yard. Shan Shayu was overjoyed. He lightly tapped his toes on the fallen leaves. His figure dashed towards the nearby courtyard. A little girl in the courtyard is called by her family to collect the clothes. The little girl, puffed up with anger, is about to take down the clothes. Suddenly, a strong wind blows into the courtyard. 2 pieces of clothing are immediately swept away by the strong wind. The little girl wonders why the wind suddenly picked up, but she only sees a young man falling from the sky. He skillfully puts the clothes and trousers on. Shan Shayu didn't expect the clothes and trousers to fit so well. He casually tossed a priceless night pearl to the girl. "I'll be taking the clothes. That pearl is enough to buy this outfit." The girl stared at the night pearl in her hand, dumbfounded. Then, she snapped back to reality and questioned who he was. But when she looked up again, the boy had vanished. Under the setting sun, Xia Shayu stood on the tree, just as he had many years ago. "It's time to go to the Central Plains and fulfill my master's last wish." Meanwhile, in a valley in Fengcheng, Liaoning, a group of horsemen, carrying torches, were slowly advancing. Si-Tu Zhan, the leader of the Qingjian sect, was cautiously looking around. A flock of birds suddenly flew up from the mountain wall, causing him to glance sideways. An elderly man beside him spoke to comfort him. "Sect leader Si-Tu, there's no need to be so on edge." This man was Jiao Ziming, the magistrate of Fengcheng. In Fengcheng, who dares to contend with the Qingjian sect? Hearing this, Si-Tu Zhan's lips curled into a smile. The Qingjian sect has no intention of dominating this small Fengcheng. It turns out that in today's martial arts world, the Tiawu League's power is at its peak. Si-Tu Zhan's goal is to make the Qingjian sect submit to the Tiawu League. But to achieve this goal, he must first dominate Liaoning. Since the family's seclusion, Dali Fortress, as one of the Shitzi League's SGSL, has become the overlord of Liaoning. But recently, the Moron family has become active again. Thinking of this, Si-Tu Zhan smiled slightly. "Our goal is to control the entire Liaoning. In terms of financial resources, Dali Fort is far inferior to his Qingjianmen. As long as this mission is successfully completed, Qingjianmen will ascend to a new level. Sect Master Si-Tu, do you intend to defeat Dali Fort and the Tiawu League? That, in my opinion, is not a difficult task. We will help the sect leader. As long as we work together." But before he could finish his sentence, a feathered arrow instantly pierced his heart. Jiao Ziming looked at the arrow in his chest in disbelief. He was then thrown from his horse by the arrow's immense force. Si-Tu Zhan was startled by the sudden turn of events. The next second, dozens of figures were seen leaping down from the cliff face. It's the notorious bandit group, the 100 Dogs Squad. After a night, the valley has returned to peace. 2 divination fighters silently look at the carnage around them. The leading man speaks calmly. They tried to deceive everyone and steal the imperial gold, but they were completely annihilated by the 100 Dogs Squad. Those from the Green Sword sect were truly overestimating themselves. At this moment, the female divination fighter suddenly notices something and glances behind her. He immediately alerted his brother that someone was watching them secretly. The two immediately looked up towards the cliff face. They saw a dark figure, wielding a long spear, crouching there. Seeing that they had been discovered, the dark figure immediately leaped and disappeared. The woman asked her brother if they should capture the person, but the man said it wasn't necessary. That person is from Dali Fortress's assassination squad. The Iron Judge must be nearby. We should have fought Dali Fort earlier. It's not necessary now. Let's go. The 100 Dogs Squad robbed the gold. If we don't find them soon, it'll be hard to get it back. Meanwhile, in Ningbenshi, the Bei Mingyin was bustling with noise. A large man drank from a large jar amidst the cheers of the crowd. He drained a whole jar of wine in an instant. The crowd roared their approval, cheering wildly, without noticing. Luo Xiaqiu, the captain of the 100 Dogs Squad, shouted loudly, "Brothers, let's drink our fill today." At this moment, a subordinate nervously approached. "Boss, I provided the intelligence about the gold. The reward for this." Luo Xiaqiu laughed uproariously, stating that he would naturally not mistreat him. The innkeeper cowered behind the counter, trembling. He nervously peeked out from time to time, praying for the bandits to leave soon. At that moment, a figure swaggered into the inn. The man ignored the bandits surrounding him like wolves. Luo Xiaqiu, upon seeing the man's face, was suddenly startled. The bandit leader, a ruthless killer, cursed inwardly. Damn it, how could he be here? This 500 gene, approximately 250 kilograms, fatty could drink a whole jar of strong wine in one go. Over 100 brothers under him were notorious bandits. However, just as Fatty and his men were celebrating merrily, a man dared to swagger into the inn. Fatty, upon seeing the man's face, was so scared he dripped snot. Luo Xiaqiu's eyes widened in disbelief. He recognized the man as Ji Wushui, the head of Dali Fortress's assassination squad. Ji Wushui found a table and sat down with a swagger. Luo Xiaqiu's subordinates didn't recognize him. He stepped forward to announce that the Biming Inn was booked by the 100 Dogs Squad today, but Ji Wushui seemed to ignore him completely. He suddenly shouted at the innkeeper, demanding tea. The innkeeper, cowering in the corner, hastily served the tea. At that moment, a shout came from the inn entrance. the formidable iron-faced judge, angered by a cup of tea. It seems the Dali fortress isn't as magnanimous as it claims. The newcomers were the siblings who had been tracking him. Ji Wushui was slightly moved upon seeing the arrival of these two. So it's the Murong twins. Could it be that the Murong family also wants to interfere in the affairs of the north? Luo Xiaoqiu was already sweating profusely. He never expected that even the Murong family would be involved. At this time, Murong Guang softly spoke. Junior greets the iron-faced judge of Dali Fortress, Senior. Upon hearing these words, the faces of the 100 Dogs bandits changed drastically, but Ji Wushui appeared rather indifferent. Dali Fort has no intention of clashing with the Murong family. How about you two leave now? Murong Ji's voice was cold. If the Murong family asks you to withdraw, Senior, would you consider agreeing? Ji Wushui couldn't help but let out a cold laugh upon hearing this. I didn't expect the high and mighty Murong family to think that these gold and silver would reappear. Ji Wushui's eyes suddenly turned cold at this point. Since you refuse my offer, then I will kill everyone here and take the gold. With that, Ji Wushui's aura suddenly changed. The entire inn trembled slightly from his power. But unexpectedly, Murong Shuangjie and Ji Yinqing showed no fear. The siblings' faces also darkened. Our Murong family has been secluded for 20 years. It seems you insignificant dogs have forgotten your place. Having said that, the two Murong masters drew their weapons, their tone chilling. What is Dali Fort? Unexpectedly, Luo Xiaoqiu on the side suddenly roared. This bandit leader was equally defiant. Damn you! Do you think our 100 Dogs squad? Are you a pushover? At that moment, a young man walked in, muttering to himself. I heard that if you come to Benshi, you must go to Beihan Inn. Shan Shayu moved like a ghost. In an instant passing through the middle of the Murong siblings, Ji Wushui's expression turned serious for the first time at this sight. He hadn't even seen the young man's movements clearly. Shan Shayu was completely oblivious to the hostile gazes around him. He swaggered into the inn, his hands behind his head, and walked towards an empty seat. A moment later, he noticed the tense atmosphere in the inn. Shan Shayu walked towards the counter. Don't mind me, carry on with what you're doing. Shan Shayu said, then sat down and ordered a bowl of noodles. Murong Shuangjie stared at the boy's back, slightly stunned. At that moment, Ji Wushui's eyes suddenly narrowed. Taking advantage of Murong Shuangjie's distraction, he attacked. Ji Wushui darted away. His withered left hand shot out. The cloth wrapped around his arm, like a viper striking. It aimed straight for Murong Ji's face. Seeing this, Murong Guang's eyes suddenly turned cold. His right hand moved slightly, and the folding fan in his palm snapped open. He surprisingly arrived before his sister, intercepting the attack. His fan deflected Ji Wushui's surprise attack with the cloth. Ji Wu Yongshui didn't expect the opponent to react so quickly. He was instantly shocked and forced back. While Murong Guang exerted himself powerfully, immediately closing in, he attacked Ji Wushui. Seeing this, the latter didn't dare to be careless. He quickly channeled his energy into the cloth strips. Under the pull of his energy, the cloth strips seemed to come alive. Wrapped around Ji Wushui's arms, they transformed into protective gauntlets. Ji Wushui blocked with his arm. He actually received Guang's thunderous strike with his bare body. The two separated after the strike and attacked again. In an instant, they exchanged several blows at lightning speed. Suddenly, Guang swept his folding fan. Ji Wushui quickly leaped back, narrowly avoiding it. Then, he lightly tapped his toes on Guang's folding fan. Using the recoil, he sprang up, creating distance from his opponent. Ji Wushui's 10 fingers dug deeply into the wooden pillar. His whole body hung upside down on the wall like a giant spider. Murong Guang let out a surprised laugh. Senior's escape skills are quite something. Ji Wushui laughed instead of getting angry, his words laced with sarcasm. The martial arts of the Murong family are nothing more than this. As soon as he finished speaking, Murong Guang's hat trembled slightly. The next second, the hat cleanly broke into two halves. Murong Guang's eyes were icy, his voice chilling. Dali Fortress's martial arts aren't necessarily superior. Having said that, a sharp crack was heard behind Ji Wushui. Huey's headcloth was also shattered by the force. The smile gradually faded from Ji Wushui's face. Murong Guang then instructed his sister, "Leave the 100 Dogs squad to you. I'll deal with this old geezer." Hearing this, Ji Wushui's face grew even darker. Meanwhile, the Baikuan team nearby were still shocked by the previous fight. Just as Luo Xiaoqiu was heading for the door, preparing to escape, a straw hat, carrying a strong wind, shot swiftly towards them. The hat whizzed past Luo Xiaoqiu's cheek. The force was so great that it was embedded more than a foot into the wall. Murong Ji's voice was cold and calm as he walked over. "Big brother always leaves these trash to me." Having said that, the girl unsheathed the 3-foot-long green blade from her hand with a clang. "Captain Luo, if you think you can escape, you've got another thing coming. If you tell me where the stolen gold is hidden, I can give you a quick death." Luo Xiaoqiu was furious upon hearing this. He had roamed the Greenwoods for years. He had never suffered such humiliation. Whether it was the Murong clan or Dali Fort, kill them all today. The 100 Dogs team roared their assent. Immediately, they charged forward with their weapons. Just then, Ji Wuxue bellowed, "Pursuit team, listen up. Leave no one alive here." With those words, several dark figures burst from the second floor of the inn. It turned out Ji Wuxue had already ambushed an assassination team here. The assassination team members leaped from the railing and attacked. These assassins are all elite members of Dali Fortress. Facing a large number of enemies, they remained calm and shouted in unison, "The gold belongs to our Dali Fortress." Hearing this, Shan Shaoyu's ears twitched slightly. The boy turned his head with interest and murmured to himself, "Gold." Inside the inn, a fierce battle broke out. However, the boy calmly ate his pig's feet noodles. The innkeeper advises the boy that this place is dangerous and he shouldn't stay long. But Shan Shaoyu says he came from the north. He hasn't had a decent meal in 10 years. "Boss, why are they fighting? I heard them mention gold." "I'm not sure. It seems to be Dali Fort and the Murong family, fighting over the gold stolen by the 100 Dogs squad." Shan Shaoyu understood. He had heard his master mention Dali Fort and the Murong family. The two forces were vying for dominance in Jining. Murong Ji kicked the assassin's cheek. The latter crashed into the counter and fainted. Murong Ji then looked at Shan Shaoyu in front of the counter. She observed that the boy's eyes were clear and his expression calm. Murong Ji couldn't help but grow suspicious. This person remained so calm in this situation. Could he be a hidden master? Just then, Murong Ji sensed a malicious wind behind him. It was a Dali Fort expert, wielding a weapon, rushing towards him. Murong Ji turned abruptly and slashed down with his sword. The Dali Fort expert was instantly cut in two. He casually dealt with the attacker. Murong Ji looked towards Shan Shaoyu again. After a moment's contemplation, he suppressed the absurd thoughts in his heart. That young man looked no older than 20. How could he possibly have reached the realm of inner radiance? Thinking this, Murong Ji coldly reminded him, "If you don't want to die, you'd better leave here quickly. Thank you for the warning, Xing, but I have 2 more bites. I'll leave after I finish. You continue, don't mind me." Hearing this, Murong Ji looked at the young man with surprise. "You're quite brave. Suit yourself." Having said that, Meng dashed back into the fray. At that moment, the Dali Fortress expert who had fainted slowly regained consciousness. He immediately saw Shan Shaoyu at the counter. Mistaking Shan Shaoyu for a member of the 100 Dogs team, he roared, raising his hand to strike Shan Shaoyu with a palm strike. In response, Shan Shaoyu smoothly rotated the chopsticks in his hand, infusing them with powerful internal energy before suddenly striking out. The chopsticks accurately struck the Dali Fortress expert's fingertip. Overwhelming force instantly penetrated his body from the fingertip. Turbulent internal energy immediately surged into the latter's meridians. This Dali Fortress expert would soon bleed to death. He then fell to the ground with a thud. After killing his opponent with one move, Shan Yu sighed lightly. It seems the martial arts of the Dali Fortress are nothing special. He then shifted his gaze to the overall situation on the field. Murong Guang and Ji Wuxue were locked in a fierce battle. For a moment, they were evenly matched, neither gaining an advantage. Ji Wuxue let out a cold smile. "Lately, the Murong family has been scouring Liaoning for gold. What are your true intentions?" Murong Guang's eyes narrowed, his tone icy. "I see Nia tell you." With that, he moved swiftly, his fan sweeping out in a wide arc. But Ji Wuxue dodged it. Luo Xiaoqiu watched the battle unfold, filled with shock and fury. Although the 100 Dogs team was fierce, they were no match for the Dali Fort's elite troops. At this moment, a subordinate trembled as he asked, "Captain, we've suffered heavy casualties. What should we do?" "Those damn bastards. I'll fight them to the death." Having said that, Luo Xiaoqiu raised his fists above his head. He channeled his energy into both arms. Then, he crouched down, bending at the waist, and slammed his fists into the ground. A surge of energy rippled outwards in an instant. Those around him were violently thrown back. Even the two engaged in fierce battle not far away. Murong Guang and the other were momentarily stunned. Murong Ji's eyes widened in disbelief. She hadn't expected this bandit leader to possess such strength. Suddenly, the girl's pupils constricted. Luo Xiaoqiu appeared like a charging bull. Before she could react, she was sent flying. "Iron-faced judge, Murong Shuangjie, I remember you. I will return this humiliation 100-fold." Having said that, the leader of the 100 Dogs bandits fled. With a few leaps, he was already dozens of feet away. Murong Guang, realizing his carelessness, immediately gave chase. Ji Wuxue had no heart to tangle with him any longer. He shouted and ordered the pursuit team to follow. Amidst the confusion, a group of people burst out of the Beibin Inn. In a few breaths, they caught up to Luo Xiaoqiu. Murong Guang's eyes were filled with killing intent as he spoke coldly. "Luo Xiaoqiu, do you really think you can escape with your light skills?" Ji Wuxue followed closely behind, similarly issuing a threat. "Hand over the gold, and my Dali Fortress will protect you." At this time, the subordinates in the inn also reacted. They were preparing to escape, but unexpectedly, they were blocked by Murong Ji, who had gotten to his feet with his sword. The girl, without hesitation, slashed across the subordinate's throat. The latter let out a mournful cry and was sent flying by the tremendous force. Ignoring the blood splattered on her face, Murong-ji gritted her teeth. "Luo Xiaoqiu, I swear I will personally take your head." Having said that, the girl dashed out of the inn. Inside the Beibin Inn, it was a scene of carnage, a bloodbath. It really was a case of greed blinding them. That fat man isn't some three-headed, six-armed monster. How could one person hide so much gold? Shan Xiaoyu slowly walked to his dying subordinate. The latter, his voice like a bellows, begged the youth to save his life. "Saving people isn't my thing, but killing. I'm quite good at that." Having said that, he reached out his left hand and gently pressed 2 points on his subordinate's neck. He then poured his powerful inner energy into the other's body. The latter felt his blood and energy instantly flow backward, causing unbearable pain. His subordinate endured the intense pain from within and looked at Shan Xiaoyu. What are you going to do? Tell me the location of the hidden gold, and I'll give you a quick death. Otherwise, you'll only suffer a living death. Dong Dong Mingshan Yinkilling. In the valley there's a cave covered in vines. Just kill me. I can't take it anymore. As Shan Xiaoyu slowly dissipated the true energy in his hand, his subordinate's pupils gradually dilated, and then life faded away. Shan Xiaoyu's expression remained unchanged, and he spoke calmly. "Thank you. Rest in peace." Having said that, he reached out and closed the person's eyes. Half an incense stick later, in Insu Ridge of Dongming Mountain, hundreds of miles away, Shan Xiaoyu looked around, confirming that this was the place. Sure enough, he found hoofprints and wheel tracks nearby. The wheel tracks were 1 inch deep, proving that the vehicle carried a very heavy load. Shan Xiaoyu followed the tracks to a mountain valley. Sure enough, he found a cave covered with vines. Shan Xiaoyu pushed aside the vines and peered into the cave. He saw countless wooden boxes stacked inside. The boxes contained glittering gold ingots. Tens of thousands of taels of gold were neatly stacked in the cave. However, the boy who discovered them remained unmoved. Shan Xiaoyu only took a few ingots and put them into his money bag. The boy then looked around, his heart filled with difficulty. He was certain that the situation would require these golds. But how should he dispose of the gold now? After a moment's thought, Shan Xiaoyu walked out of the cave. Judging from the battle at the inn, Dolly Fort had little chance of winning. In the end, the Murong family would most likely come to take the gold. Thinking this, Shan Xiaoyu extended his hands calmly. He kneeled all his inner strength into his palms. His master had taught him that everything in the world has its pulse. As long as I sever the connections of these veins, nothing is unbreakable by the heavenly soul divine art. Shan Xiaoyu suddenly launched his palms outwards. 2 powerful and domineering streams of energy shot out. The surging force immediately plunged into the side walls. The next second, the surrounding mountainside collapsed. Shan Xiaoyu leaped up and landed on a tree branch. The young man quietly admired his handiwork. When the dust settles, only to see that the collapsed rocks have completely buried the entrance, Shan Yu's face showed no joy or sorrow. This way, no one should be able to easily take the gold. After doing all this, Shan Yu began to calculate in his heart. Now, Dali Fort in Fushun and the Murong family in Shenyang are vying for dominance in Liaoning. 10 years ago, when my master was searching for his daughter, he stopped at the Blood and Tears Plain. Shenyang is also the most populous place in Liaoning. After careful consideration, Shan Xiaoyu decided to set off for Shenyang to investigate. Meanwhile, Ji Wu channeled all his internal energy into his fist. Murong Guang similarly poured all his inner strength into his folding fan. Fist and fan collided with a thunderous crash. Roof tiles scattered and flew everywhere. Luo Xiaoqiu was terrified at the sight. These two are far beyond my capabilities. Senior Wu Shui, the difference in our strength is self-evident. Must we fight to the death? A bloody streak appeared on Wu Shui's cheek. Arrogant brat, you're nowhere near my level. Pursuit team, go capture Luo Xiaoqiu first. Several elite Dali Fortress warriors responded loudly and charged towards Luo Xiaoqiu. A bad feeling washed over Murong Guan. Even if I were slightly better in martial arts, I'm still outnumbered. Just then, a graceful figure appeared. It was Murong Ji, who had been pursuing them. Luo Xiaoqiu, leave him to me. Immediately, several powerful strikes shot out. 4 elite warriors from Dali Fortress were instantly killed. After a series of swift sword moves, Murong Ji sheathed his sword. Then, leaping forward, he reached out to grab Luo Xiaoqiu. Before the latter could react, the girl grabbed his throat. Seeing this, Ji Wushui quickly fled. Unexpectedly, a gust of vital energy suddenly arrived, attacking his face. It was clearly Murong Guang, blocking his path. In a flash, Ji Wushui could only raise his arm to block. A stream of blood immediately spurted from his arm. I advised you to stop just now, but you wouldn't listen. It's too late now. Leave your life here. Luo Xiaoqiu, even with his throat choked, remained defiant. The gold is mine. You won't get the location of the gold from me. Murong Ji's face was stern, his words icy. No, I will make you tell me. With that, Murong Ji's inner strength erupted, instantly enveloping Luo Xiaoqiu. He used the Murong family's secret technique, soul capture. It was night. Dali Fortress was brightly lit. 7 corpses lay neatly arranged in the corridor. Wan Jixiang, the lord of Dali Fortress, stared at the corpses, his face ashen. Such a waste of so many lives. Father, continuing to watch is pointless. That's right. Their daring assassination of the assassination squad proves they're willing to fight Dali Fortress. Ji Wushui whispered that the failure was due to his incompetence. He begged Wan Jixiang to forgive him. You've already done your best. What's the point of punishing you? What I don't understand is why the Morong family would return to the world for mere gold. But no matter what their purpose is, Dali Fort will not let them succeed. Speaking from the city walls, Jixiang's voice boomed. Everyone, listen to my orders. From this day forward, Dali Fort and the Morong clan are sworn enemies. All members are forbidden to leave. Prepare for all-out war against the Morong clan. The Dali Fort members roared their assent, a thunderous sound. Ji Wushui looked ashamed, hesitating to speak. Wushui, if you truly are incompetent, doesn't that mean I've shown poor judgment? Stop overthinking. You will be the vanguard in the decisive battle, to atone for your past mistakes. Ji Wushui immediately knelt on one knee, overflowing with gratitude. Wan Jixiang nodded slightly upon seeing this. Good, it should be so. Having said that, Wan Jixiang looked towards a body on a straw mat. The lord who had dominated Liaoning for 20 years narrowed his eyes. Then, he personally stepped forward to examine the body. Wan Jixiang lifted the cloth, his expression doubtful. This body shows no sword wounds. It indicates he didn't die from external injuries. His internal organs are also intact. Clearly, he didn't die from internal injuries. Wan Jixiang then pressed 2 fingers on the body's pulse point, carefully sensing. The next second, the decisive fortress lord's face suddenly changed. He was killed by someone who used profound internal force to sever his heart pulse. Wan Jixiang abruptly turned to look at Ji Wushui. Wushui, were there any others present when you fought with Morong Shuangjie? Ji Wushui frankly stated that there was indeed a young man in his 20s present, but the other person's behavior was unremarkable. He didn't seem like someone with such profound inner strength either. Wan Jixiang's face was heavy as he murmured to himself. So it seems there was a master secretly assisting them. Xing Xian, you and Hui Chang are jointly responsible for welcoming the North Wind Jade Hand. You must ensure there are absolutely no mistakes. After instructing his son, Wan Jixiang fell into deep thought. Such precise severing of the heart pulse was a level he himself could not reach. Could it be that there is such a master among the Morong family? Or is there another expert interfering in this matter? Even with his calm demeanor, he began to feel uneasy. The existence of this person could very well become a new variable. Meanwhile, at the Morong family estate in Shenyang, the 2 Morong brothers arrived at a door. Morong Ji chuckled and called out, "Big brother, you're late. It seems things didn't go as smoothly as we expected." Morong Guang's face was grim. He said hatefully, "I've let you down. What's there to be disappointed about? I didn't have any expectations from the start." Enough said. You may go in. Father has been waiting for you for a long time. Having said that, Morong Junqing turned and pushed open the door. An elderly man was seen standing with his hands behind his back, gazing into the distance. This person was none other than the head of the Morong family, Morong Dongtian. Morong Junqing respectfully reported, "Father, Guang'er and Jier have returned." Morong Dongtian turned his head, his expression cold. "I heard you failed to retrieve the gold. We had already used the soul-seizing DF to extract the hiding place." Hearing this, Morong Dongtian's expression darkened. "But when we arrived, we found that a landslide had occurred. The surrounding mountains have completely collapsed. But please rest assured, Father, as long as you give us time, even if it means moving mountains, we will find the gold." After Morong Guang finished recounting the events, Morong Dongtian's thin left hand suddenly shot out. Immediately, his 5 fingers clamped down. A surging suction force erupted from his palm. Morong Guang instantly felt a tightness in his throat. Seeing this, Morong Ji cried out in alarm. Morong Guang's body was already rising uncontrollably into the air. The next second, he was grabbed mid-air by Morong Dongtian. The young emperor's father beckoned to his 20-year-old son. The next second, the son was sucked over by a surge of powerful energy. Morong Dongtian seized his son's throat. Such careless work. What use are you to me? Seeing this, Morong Ji wanted to plead for him, but his elder brother stopped him with a hand. Father is in a rage, don't speak. At this moment, Morong Dongtian was like an enraged lion. Do you know why our Morong family has been closed off for 20 years? It's to guard against the Wulong alliance under the Tiawu League. Humph, you only have such a limited perspective. 20 years ago, the Morong family grew too rapidly. The 5 great families feared that the Morong family posed a threat to them. Therefore, they relied on the Iron Martial Alliance and formed the 5 Dragon Alliance to suppress the Morong family. Because of this, 20 years ago, a shocking change occurred within the Morong family. The head of the family, Morong Dongtian, suddenly announced the closure of the family to the outside world, and personally killed all the family elders who opposed him. Do you think everything I did was merely to join that lovely five-dragon alliance? I intend to let the Murong family rule the entire Iron Martial Alliance. Speaking of which, Murong Dongtian suddenly pressed his son's head against the stone. The veins on the forehead of the Murong family had bulged. Murong Guang, what did you see? Murong Guang, enduring the pain, spoke in a trembling voice. I saw the Biling Cave. That's right, it's the Biling Cave. As long as we obtain the Biling Emperor's legacy within, what is there to fear from the measly five-dragon alliance? As long as I get that batch of gold, the key to opening the cave dwelling will be in my hands. But now, because of your mistake, my plan, which I've spent 20 years on, is about to go down the drain. At this moment, Murong Junsheng softly consoles him. Father, please calm down. I believe Murong Guang's mistake was unintentional. 11 and father needn't worry. I've already prepared a contingency plan. Within a few days, the Taima escort agency will be able to raise the gold. The key to opening the Biling Cave will undoubtedly be obtained. Hearing this, Murong Dong's anger gradually subsided. He then instructed Murong Guang and his sister, you two should not interfere in this matter anymore. Recently, there's news that the Lion Alliance's North Wind Jade Hand is making moves. You are responsible for the vigilance around the family. There must be no mistakes. Hai Murong Dongtian looked towards the Northern Ridge Cave and muttered to himself, I have endured for 20 long years. Now, I'm just one step away. Murong Dongtian's withered hand suddenly exerted force. The hard stone railing was crushed by him. The scheming Murong family head's face was full of ferocity. Then, the entire world will bow before the family. Shan Shayu gazed at the crimson moon hanging high in the night sky. Suddenly, he heard a voice calling him. Shayu, I entrust my sister to you. Shan Shayu ran wildly, trying to catch his brother, but he heard someone calling his name from behind. Shan Shayu turned his head, only to see Gong Wuai's face pale with fear. Shayu, save me. I don't want to be taken away. He was about to rush forward, but found himself firmly bound. The Yuan dynasty envoy, like a wolf, glared at him and coldly said, You have guts, but I enjoy crushing the will of men like you. Shan Shayu suddenly awoke from his sleep, only to realize it had been a nightmare. Shan Shayu was instantly wide awake, feeling lost and disoriented. At that moment, a faint footstep was heard. Shan Shayu's eyes sharpened, and he turned his head to look. Several figures wearing appeared in the distance. Two of them stepped forward from the crowd. The leading man bowed to him. It turned out that the man was Mo Guyu of the Taima escort agency. His escort was passing through and looking for a place to rest. Therefore, he came to ask Shan Shayu for a favor. Following martial arts conventions, Shan Shayu exchanged names with him. This is unclaimed land, you're welcome. The escort team settled down by the campfire. Mo Guyu, being a friendly person, immediately started chatting with Shan Shayu. During their conversation, he learned that they were publicly escorting a shipment of goods to Shenyang. This place is high up, with a vast surrounding area, making it easy to defend. Therefore, they always stop here on their way to Shenyang. Hearing that the other party was also going to Shenyang, Shan Shayu inquired whether it was related to Xiang and the Murong family. Unexpectedly, Mo Guyu, who had been talkative, paused. Then, with a solemn expression, he stated that he could not reveal his client's privacy. Shan Shayu repeatedly apologized, saying that he was also going to Shenyang. He was just curious and asked a question. Mo Guyu's younger brother, Mo Juanshi, quickly smoothed things over. He handed a plate of food to Shan Shayu. Shan Shayu thanked him and then changed the subject. I intend to go to Shenyang to inquire about some matters. I wonder how you usually obtain intelligence. Speaking of this, Mo Guyu opened up. He said it depends on the type of intelligence. Mo Juanshi also added, saying that in the Central Plains, the most well-informed is the Qiao gang. Although the beggar's status is humble, their numbers are vast. Therefore, the gang's informants are everywhere. And it so happens that there's a branch of the Wanbang in Shenyang. Shan Shayu, having heard this, had a plan in mind. Mo Guyu stated that Shenyang is currently turbulent. The Taili fortress and the Murong family are on the verge of war. If Shan Shayu has no urgent business, it's best to avoid it for now. Shan Shayu said he has something he absolutely must do. With that, a playful smile curved the young man's lips. He stated that he must go to Shenyang no matter what. Seeing Shan Shayu's startled smile, Mo Guyu's heart trembled slightly. It seems the young hero is no ordinary person. I spoke out of turn. The night passed without incident. The next day, Shan Shayu set off with the escort team. Along the way, Mo Guyu briefed Shan Shayu on the situation in the martial arts world. Young Master Shan, you may not know this, but the Tai Wu League is currently dominating the martial arts world. Can you believe that a single faction scale is comparable to a city? It's unprecedented. Seeing Shan Shayu remain unmoved, Mo Guyu was quite surprised. You know nothing of the Tai Wu League? Shan Shayu said he came from the north, and knew little of the martial world situation. Hearing this, Mo Guyu began a detailed explanation. It turned out that the Tai Wu League was composed of the 9 palaces, the 5 Dragon Alliance, and the Lion Alliance. It almost encompasses all the top experts in the Central Plains. Among them, the 2 saints lead the way. There are also the 3 tyrants, the 4 venerables, and other powerful figures. It's truly a gathering of experts. One of the 2 saints is Plum Blossom Sword Saint, Yun Yezi, who commands the Ninefold Mansion. The other is Fist Saint Huangfu Junhua, who presides over the 5 Dragon Alliance. Closely following the 2 saints are the 3 tyrants, including the invincible Blade Tyrant, Tai Wuxing. Although his cultivation is not as high as the 2 saints, it's still extraordinary. He's the head of the Lion Alliance. It is said that the 2 saints and the 3 tyrants possess unparalleled martial arts skills, reaching the pinnacle of mastery. They have long since entered the realm of carefree immortals. Hearing this, Shan Xiaoyu pondered silently. There was also a group of experts at the level of carefree immortals in northern Xinjiang. However, they were all killed by his master. The young man murmured to himself, "I don't know how strong those masters are compared to master. No, I don't know who would win if they fought me." At that moment, a scent wafted over, interrupting his thoughts. He knew this scent all too well. It was a strong smell of blood. Then, Mo Juanxi was seen galloping towards him on horseback. "Big brother, a large number of corpses have been found not far ahead. Just how terrifying is the mutual slaughter between the great families and sects?" Mo Guyu, hearing that corpses had been discovered ahead, immediately went forward to check. He saw hundreds of corpses densely packed by the roadside. Seeing this scene, Shan Xiaoyu couldn't help but tremble. Mo Guyu then loudly commanded, "It seems Dali Fort and the Murong family have already begun their war. Everyone, quicken your pace. We must pass through Bloody Tears Plain as quickly as possible." The escort team immediately galloped towards Shenyang. Shan Xiaoyu in the carriage fell into deep thought. He had just recognized that most of the people in the group were wearing clothes from North China. At this moment, Mogyu's shout interrupted his thoughts. "Don't worry, we will reach Shenyang today." There were previous rumors that Dali Fort had taken in a group of refugees from North China. It seems the news is true. Dali Fort probably doesn't want to exhaust its strength too early. Hearing the words, refugees, Shan Xiaoyu offered a wry smile. If they weren't desperate, who would choose to die far from home? But then, he felt a surge of anticipation. If there were a large number of refugees from the north here, perhaps he could find out about the whereabouts of Er Fu's daughter and Wu Ai Jia. At this moment, Mo Juanxi, leading the way, shouted loudly, "Big brother, I see the bronze black dragon statue." From Mo Guyu, Shan Xiaoyu learned the origin of the bronze black dragon statue. It turns out that since the Murong family sealed their gates, this place has been constantly in turmoil. Countless streams of blood soaked the land, thus earning it the name Blood and Tears Plain. 2 bronze statues were erected here to commemorate the warriors who died in battle. But 10 years ago, one statue was completely destroyed. How a statue weighing more than 10,000 caddies could be reduced to this state remains unknown. Shan Xiaoyu looked into the distance, his brows furrowed slightly. Could it have been my master's doing back then? Soon, the majestic outline of Shenyang city appeared in everyone's sight. After entering the city, the escort agency members bid a fond farewell to Shan Xiaoyu. Mo Juanxi clasped his fists in a gesture of farewell. The Qiaobang sub-branch is located somewhere on Dongzhu Road. Young Master Shan can go there to investigate. Shan Xiaoyu clasped his fists in return, expressing his heartfelt gratitude. Mo Guyu, acting familiarly, put his arm around Shan Xiaoyu's shoulder. He indicated that he still had a mission and had to leave. "Young master, please be sure to visit the Taima escort agency when you have time in the future. Then let's drink till we drop. I wish you good fortune, young martial artist." Shan Xiaoyu smiled and nodded in agreement. "I will definitely visit you when I have the chance." Watching the escort agency's party, carrying their cargo, gradually disappearing into the distance, Shan Xiaoyu turned around, looking around and surveying his surroundings. Then, with a powerful leap, he sprang into the air. With 2 powerful bounds, Shan Xiaoyu easily leaped onto a rooftop. The boy observed from the rooftop for a moment. He immediately chose the highest section of the city wall and dashed towards it. Shan Xiaoyu reached out his left hand, grasping the flagpole. He rotated around the flagpole once, dissipating his momentum. The boy looked around and murmured to himself, "I wonder where the Murong family's estate is." After a while, a smile curved Shan Xiaoyu's lips. He thought, that city built there must be the Murong family's estate. At that moment, Shan Xiaoyu's gaze suddenly sharpened. He saw 2 figures standing on the distant city gate tower. It was the Murong siblings he had met at the Baiming Inn. It seems my guess was right. That is indeed the Murong family estate. Following their line of sight downwards, he saw a group of people driving carriages through the gate. Shan Xiaoyu smiled slightly. The goods escorted by the Taima escort agency were indeed being sent to the Murong family. At that moment, a childish cry for help reached his ears. Shan Xiaoyu abruptly turned his head, looking in the direction of the sound. He saw 3 burly men surrounding a young child. The 3 men fought and cursed, showing no mercy. "We warned you before. This is the Shizhang's territory. Don't come back." Shan Xiaoyu's brows furrowed slightly. He recognized the child's cry for help as having a northern accent. Shan Shayu leaped from a flagpole and flew away. The child shielded his head with his hands, pleading repeatedly. He said his mother was ill. He wanted to ask the right help to help him find his father. Do you think the esteemed right help accepts any commission? Gao Ba, this DZ raised his wooden club to strike down. At that moment, a figure darted forward like a ghost. Shan Shayu moved like lightning, instantly intercepting the child. Immediately, his left index finger shot out. The slender finger struck the falling wooden stick squarely. A powerful internal force instantly shattered the wooden stick into pieces. The members of the Guqiao gang were shocked and terrified at the sight. Shan Shayu coldly questioned them. 3 grown men bullying a child. Is this the conduct of your Guqiao gang? Having spoken, he extended 2 fingers. He separately tapped the other 2 between the eyebrows. In less than a second, surging power burst forth from their bodies. The 2 were immediately sent flying. In an instant, Shan Shayu knocked all 3 to the ground. Unbeknownst to him, this scene was witnessed by an old beggar on the roof. This person was Hong Wukue, the Zhengbang elder who had met his master 10 years ago. The leader of the Xiabang muttered to himself, could this martial art be? Meanwhile, the leading member of the Wanbang struggled to his feet. You brat, who are you, daring to obstruct the Xiabang's actions? With that, he lunged forward, his 5 fingers outstretched like claws, aiming for Shan Shayu. The latter, fearless, struck back with a palm, meeting the opponent's claws. His thumb precisely struck the opponent's Shenmen point. A surge of powerful energy surged into him from the heart meridian. The Xiaobang member immediately felt excruciating pain. He cried out in agony and fell to his knees. Dan Shayu spoke coldly. What crime has this child committed to deserve this? I hear that the Xiaobang is known for its chivalry and justice, but it seems they are merely deceiving the world and stealing glory. At that moment, a strong voice came. To blame the entire Wanbang for one incident is somewhat unfair. We've refused that child many times, but she still wouldn't listen. I am Hong Wukue, the elder of the Ma Bang. May I ask for the young hero's name? Shan Shayu gave him a cold look, neither humble nor arrogant. My name is Shan Shayu, from the north. Hong Wukue grinned. Young Master Shan, might you please release your hold? Though his actions were improper, there's no need to cripple him. Shan Shayu's gaze turned cold. Those who make demands should be of equal standing. Speaking of which, Shan Shayu tightened his grip. Ignoring the gang members' pig-like screams, he spoke coldly. And it seems we are not of equal standing. Young hero, you make a valid point. Therefore, my condition is that you help 100,000 DZ, and they won't seek revenge on you. At the same time, I can guarantee the child's safety and well-being in the future. Dan Shayu naturally understood the implication in the other party's words. He secretly cursed in his heart, old scoundrel, you're truly cunning. But he still released the hand of the DZ gang member. The latter immediately collapsed to the ground, clutching his twisted and deformed arm. Hong Wukui grinned. I knew you'd be reasonable, young hero. Thank you for your mercy, young Master Shan. But Shan Shayu didn't take the old man's compliment seriously. Instead, he turned to the little girl behind him. What's your name? Are you also from the north? The little girl gently nodded, saying her name was Wu Xinyu. You said earlier that your mother is ill. Let me go with you. Having said that, Shan Shayu turned and left with the little girl. The Wanbang DZ felt resentful. He asked the elder why he didn't punish that person. You should be grateful you're still alive. If I hadn't intervened, let alone you, the entire Xiaobang branch might have been wiped out. Look at those 2 DZ. If he wants to kill you, I can't stop him. Did you notice his hands just now? Smooth and fair, even more delicate than a woman's. But you can't imagine how terrifyingly strong those hands are. Speaking of which, Hong Wukui fell into deep memories, his voice becoming increasingly ethereal. Those hands were just like those of the old man I met 10 years ago. He also had a pair of delicate hands, like a woman's. But I will never forget the scene that day. With a light palm strike, he turned the bronze statue, weighing over 100 caddies, into scrap metal. Hong Wukui's voice trembled slightly as he spoke. I still remember the old man's last words. He said then that his successor would come again. Now it seems the martial arts world of Central Plains is about to be turned upside down. No one would have imagined that in Shenyang, under the rule of the powerful Murong family, someone would dare to openly attack their patrol. Just now, a team of Murong family guards were patrolling the inner city. A subordinate suggested they have a drink after patrol, but the captain sternly refused. It's wartime. Though it's unlikely Dali Fort would attack us in Shenyang, but we can't let our guard down. Unexpectedly, before his voice even fell, he was pierced through the heart by a hand. The captain's eyes widened in disbelief. He never expected that Ji Wushui of Dali Fortress had infiltrated the inner city. Seeing their captain killed, the family's guards immediately fell into a chaotic uproar of shock and rage. Meanwhile, Ji Wushui loudly commanded, "Leave none alive." The members of the pursuing team roared their assent and swarmed forward. Half an incense stick later, two figures arrived together. The arrivals were none other than Murong Juncheng and Murong Guan. Seeing the numerous Murong family members present, Murong Juncheng's expression was cold and stern. "What's the situation within the city now?" Murong Guan replied that the situation was still unclear. Assassinations like this happen frequently within the city. They're very clever. It seems they plan to eliminate our outer forces first. Just then, Murong Ji appeared gracefully. "Big brother, the Lion Alliance's North Wind Jade Hand has appeared." Murong Juncheng and the other were slightly startled at these words. Murong Juncheng coldly asked, "Zhamu Lin has arrived in Shenyang. Is the information accurate?" "Yes, I've confirmed it. It's Zhamu Lin of the North Wind Jade Hand, no mistake." Murong Guan's expression was solemn. "It seems the Lion Alliance will be getting involved. Big brother, we need to act. Dali Fort belongs to the Lion Alliance. Zhamu Lin will definitely side with Dali Fort. That's inevitable, but if we act rashly, it means declaring war on the entire Lion Alliance. Alright, I'll go see him first, and find out his intentions. You go to the Biling Cave and report this to father. Perhaps tonight that matter can be completed." Meanwhile, in an inn within the city, the physician pressed two fingers to the woman's pulse, carefully examining it. "Yes, yes." A quarter of an hour later, the physician sighed softly. "Her meridians are severely damaged, and her qi and blood are in disarray." The little girl, upon hearing this, was about to weep, but Shan Shayu spoke up and asked, "What is the difficulty? Is it insufficient payment, or is your medical skill inadequate? I am the best physician in Shenyang City. How could my medical skills be insufficient? But to treat this illness requires precious medicinal herbs like wild ginseng." Before the physician could finish speaking, Shan Shayu placed a gold ingot on the table, regardless of the cost or time. "I beg you, old sir, to do your utmost to save him." Looking at the full-weight gold ingot on the table, the physician unconsciously swallowed. "Young hero, rest assured, I will surely cure him, her." Then Lang Chong got up and took his leave. He said he would come again tomorrow after preparing the herbs. Learning that her mother could be saved, the girl burst into tears. She said she couldn't repay Dan Shayu's great kindness. Dan Shayu slowly walked to the girl, softly comforting her. "Misfortune only befalls the unfortunate, evil spirits only bully the weak. Promise your brother, no matter what hardship you face, don't shed tears easily." The girl seemed to understand, but only partially. But she still nodded heavily in agreement. "Okay, now big brother has some questions for you. How did your mother become like this?" Inside the inn's dining hall, Shan Shayu sat alone by the window, lost in thought. Wu Ai Jia was taken away by the Yuan dynasty envoys. Perhaps it has nothing to do with the Murong family. But regarding the whereabouts of Master's daughter, according to the girl just now, the Murong family is indeed suspicious. It turns out that the girl's mother encountered an accident while searching for her husband. The girl's father was a merchant who traveled between the northern border and the central plains. Then one day, his fellow countrymen from the northern border began to disappear one after another. Her father had some connection with the Murong family. He wanted to ask them for help in searching but was refused. That night, the girl's father also disappeared. Rumor has it that he was taken to a cave by the Murong family. It said that many people from the north were also imprisoned there. After thinking hard without result, Shan Shayu suddenly asked, "Old man, what do you think about this?" The old beggar grinned. "How did you know it was me? Your scent can be smelled from half a mile away." Hong Wu Kue didn't mind the boy's teasing. "I know you were eavesdropping on the roof just now. Tell me, what's your take on the northern tribesmen disappearing? What do you think?" Hong Wu Kue said the disappearance of the northern tribesmen wasn't unusual. 10 years ago, in Shenyang and even Liaoning, such incidents were commonplace. Xiao Bang investigated at the time, but found nothing. He only sensed a connection to the Murong family. But all clues went cold when the Murong family announced the closing of their doors. "I heard the Zhengbang are the best informed in the Central Plains." It seems that was an exaggeration. Young people are just impatient. 20 years ago, we found nothing. But we've learned quite a bit in recent years. Such as the location of the cave you're looking for. The investigation stops at the Hangwu Kueixia. I can only reveal this much information for free. Shan Shayu glanced back. "Do you want to make a deal?" Hong Wu Kuei's expression turned serious, stating that this was the rule of the caravan. At that moment, a figure appeared at the doorway. The old and young men both looked up. A man in black, carrying a long sword on his back, slowly walked in. This person was Zhamu Lin, known as the Jade Hand of the North Wind. Unlike the long-established 2 saints, 3 tyrants, and 4 venerables, the martial world also has 3 rising newcomers known as the 3 heroes. Zhamu Lin is one of these 3 heroes. He is clearly the outstanding young talent of the Lion Alliance. After introducing the visitor's identity, Hong Wu Kue whispered, "His personal presence here shows how much the Lion Alliance values this struggle." Shan Shayu, upon hearing this, couldn't help but look at the other person a few more times. Unexpectedly, at this moment, another person arrived closely behind. Murong Juncheng bowed respectfully. "Long time no see. It is an honor for the Morong family that one of the three tyrants, the Jade Hand of the North Wind, graces us with your presence. The Morong family is deeply honored. Jamu Lin responded indifferently. Long time no see, Morong Juncheng. Morong Juncheng then invited him to sit down. He indicated that he had something to discuss. Jamu Lin politely refused, saying he already had an appointment. Hearing this, face stiffened. He began to secretly ponder in his heart. Jamu Lin, however, clasped his fists and bowed. Junior greets Elder Hong Wu Kuei of the Wanbang. Hong Wu Kuei smiled and asked, "You know me? I heard that Senior has been in Shenyang for 10 years. I have never had the chance to visit you." Hearing this, a storm raged within Morong Juncheng's heart. The elder of the prestigious Xia Bang has lived in Shenyang for 10 years, yet he knows nothing about it. Jamu Lin keenly sensed the fluctuation in Morong Juncheng's aura. It seems the Morong family is unaware of this matter. Morong Juncheng quickly composed himself and stepped forward to pay his respects. "I am Morong Juncheng of the Morong family. I didn't know you were here, Senior." "My apologies." Hong Wu Kuei chuckled triumphantly, whispering boastfully, "How about that? Now you know how formidable I am, don't you?" Meanwhile, Shan Shayu was captivated by what Morong Juncheng said next. "Since you have an appointment, I'll just ask one question then leave. If a battle between the Morong family and Dali Fortress is inevitable, what are the intentions of the Jade Hand of the North Wind? He is the eldest son of the prestigious Morong family, yet he now grovels before a young man." Faced with Morong Juncheng's blunt question, Jamu Lin remained cold and distant. The invincible Blade Master doesn't want the Morong family and Dali Fortress to fight again. Furthermore, he suspects that all of this is a deliberate plot. Morong Juncheng remained impassive upon hearing this. "So, Senior Dao Ba suspects our Morong family? Brother Juncheng, you're overthinking." "He didn't mean that." Having said that, Jamuli's gaze locked onto him intently. "I believe it's not so." Hearing this, Morong Juncheng clasped his hands behind his back and took his leave. But after taking a few steps, he suddenly stopped and spoke meaningfully. "Brother Muley, please take care. Shenyang City tonight might be restless." Jamu Lin's eyes narrowed slightly. "Don't worry about it." After leaving the inn, Morong Juncheng sneered. The invincible blade doesn't want further conflict. He really thinks our Morong family is afraid of him. Morong Juncheng, abandoning his earlier humility, revealed a cruel expression. "Tonight is your death knell." Meanwhile, inside the inn, Jamu Lin and Hong Wu Kuei were chatting. Shan Shayu was still processing the conversation they just had. Jamu Lin interrupted his thoughts. "I am Jamu Lin of the Lion Alliance. May I ask your name, sir?" Shan Shayu exchanged names with him according to martial arts conventions. But Jamu Lin's heart was already churning with turmoil. He found that he could not sense the boy's presence at all. At that moment, Hong Wu Kuei spoke, getting straight to the point. He asked Jamu Lin what he wanted. It was nothing more than wanting information about the Morong family, or wanting his help to stay out of it. Jamu Lin frankly admitted that Hong Wu Kuei was right. The invincible blade tyrant was doing his best to prevent the situation from escalating. But if a full-scale war broke out, the Lion Alliance would inevitably participate. Wulong Alliance is also watching from the sidelines. Therefore, both sides ceasing hostilities is indeed the only choice. Since the invincible Liba has spoken personally, I guarantee that the Qiao gang will not participate in this matter. Speaking of which, Hong Wu Kuei suddenly changed the subject. But if you have ulterior motives, Senior, you jest. The Lion Alliance has no other purpose. After bowing, Jamu Lin turned and left. That night, outside Dali Fortress, Fortress Master Wan Jixiang personally welcomed Jamu Lin with his two children. Jamu Lin informed Wan Jixiang of everything that happened today. Wan Xing then asked how Dali Fortress should respond. Jamu Lin smiled coldly. "A decisive battle with the Morong family is inevitable anyway, so we might as well strike first and resolve it quickly. Let's go. Tonight, we will seize the legacy of the Northern Ridge Emperor." Meanwhile, Lao Shao gazed out over the silent Shenyang city from the railing. Hong Wu Kuei asked Shan Shayu if they were ready to act tonight. The latter replied that tonight was the perfect opportunity to infiltrate amidst the chaos. Having said that, Shan Shayu lightly leaped into the air. The young man, hands behind his back, floated away. "Don't you want to go and see the excitement?" Meanwhile, in another secret chamber, Morong Juncheng reported everything that happened today to his father in detail. After listening, Morong Dongtian immediately saw through the scheme. The Lion Alliance came under the guise of mediation, but in reality, they are vying for the inheritance of the Northern Ridge Emperor. The Xingbang elder, Hong Wu Kuei, is also in Shenyang, although he promised that the Ma gang wouldn't participate. But we must be on guard. Humph, if the caravan joins in, even they will be eliminated. Morong Dongtian's eyes burned as he looked at the golden wheel on the stone platform. After tonight, our Morong family will no longer be confined to a corner. The Five Dragon Alliance and the Iron Martial Alliance will be nothing. Morong Dongtian's tone grew increasingly frantic. With this pair of annihilation golden wheels, the entire world will be under my feet. A figure appeared out of the night. Shan Shayu landed lightly on the city wall. He saw a group of people slowly heading towards the city gate. Shan Shayu squinted, noticing two familiar figures. They were Mo Guyu and his brother from the Taima escort agency. Shan Shayu breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed the Taima escort agency wasn't involved in this conflict. But then his expression suddenly turned sharp. The inner city is a scene of carnage. Just then, Hong Wukuei's voice came from behind. What's all the fuss about? This is how martial arts families fight. An old man and a young man walked through the corpses. I'm not making a fuss. If they hadn't done this, we wouldn't have it so easy. Hong Wukuei felt a chill run down his spine upon hearing this. He didn't expect this boy to be so deep. Soon, the two arrived at a cave entrance in the back mountain. Waves of cold air rushed towards them. It was the Biling Cave, guarded by the Morong family for many years. And inside the Biling Cave at this moment, Dali Fortress and the Morong family were engaged in a fierce battle. Shouts and killings echoed through the cave. Ji Wushui led the charge, roaring angrily, "Destroy the Morong family." On the other side, the Morong family's members drew their swords to meet them. They shouted, vowing to defend Beishanling Cave to the death. Wan Xing's siblings followed closely behind Ji Wushui. In an instant, the siblings had slain several men. Zhamu unsheathed his long saber and unleashed the Lion King saber technique. A flurry of saber strikes filled the air, engulfing the surroundings. Several Morong family members were killed instantly. Less than half an incense stick's worth of time. Dali Fort had completely annihilated the Morong family's forces. Wan Jixiang's face was grave, his voice questioning. The Morong family painstakingly cultivated their power here for 20 years. Our victory was too easy, wasn't it? Unexpectedly, before his words had finished, a golden light suddenly attacked from behind. Several Dali Fort disciples were cut in half at the waist, instantly killed. He heard screams coming from behind. Zhamu Lin's pupils suddenly constricted, a bad feeling rising in his heart. The golden light, unabated, shot straight towards Wan Jixiang. Ji Wu was startled and quickly shouted a warning. "Castle Master, watch out!" Hearing the warning, Wan Jixiang sensed the imminent danger from behind. He mustered all his strength and dodged sharply, narrowly avoiding a fatal blow. However, the golden light still severed his left arm. The golden light, carrying several spurts of blood, swirled away. Wan Jixiang, however, supported his broken arm, cold sweat streaming down his face. At that moment, a heavy sound of footsteps approached from afar. Wan Jixiang, enduring the pain, glanced sideways. He saw a group of swordsmen in black slowly approaching. Under their visors, pairs of eyes emitted a chilling killing intent. Then, a deep and aged voice faintly echoed. "Even the North Wind Jade Hand has personally come. It seems the Biling Emperor's legacy is indeed highly sought after." Zhamu Lin looked up in the direction of the sound. He saw an old man standing proudly, his body brimming with surging energy. Two golden light wheels spun rapidly under the old man's control. This person was none other than Dong Tian, the head of the Morong family. An old man and a young man dared to trespass into the Morong family's forbidden area, the Biling Cave, at night. Unexpectedly, upon entering, they found corpses strewn across the passage. Seeing this scene, Shan Shayu was slightly startled. He saw many Dali Fort warriors, their bodies riddled with arrows. It seems they triggered a mechanism in the passage and died there. The two cautiously proceeded through the passage, one after the other. At this moment, Hong Wukuei spoke, asking, "Did you also come here seeking the inheritance of the Biling Emperor?" Unexpectedly, Shan Shayu frankly stated that he wasn't interested in it. Upon hearing this, Hong Wukuei's eyes widened, his voice filled with astonishment. The inheritance of the Biling Emperor is the ultimate treasure that all martial artists dream of obtaining. Why did you come to Morong 606000 if you're not interested? But before Hong Wukuei could finish speaking, the stone bricks under his feet suddenly sank half an inch. A mechanism on the wall of the corridor was immediately activated. Hong Wukuei remained calm, using all his strength, and fiercely struck out with both palms, bracing himself against the rapidly approaching stone pillar. Unexpectedly, the mechanism's power far exceeded his expectations. Even with all his might, he was still pushed towards the wall by the stone pillar. At the critical moment, a pale hand suddenly appeared. Shan Shayu flashed forward and struck out with a palm. The stone pillar, weighing over 10,000 jin, instantly exploded with a bang. Shan Shayu smiled calmly. Celestial Soul Divine Skill has never known defeat in 1,000 years. Hong Wukuei's eyes widened in shock at the young man's overwhelming power. After saving Hong Wukuei, the two continued onward. In a short while, they passed through the passage and reached an exit. I never imagined that there was such a hidden world beneath the Biling Cave. Hong Wukuei was stunned by the sight before him. Below was a giant ice lake, 100 zhang in diameter. A group of people were surrounding another group on the ice lake. Hong Wukuei instantly recognized Morong Dong Tian on the stone platform. Could those two golden wheels be the inheritance of the Biling Emperor? Unexpectedly, Shan Shayu showed no interest in the so-called treasure. Instead, he focused his attention on a house in the corner. Shan Shayu exerted himself and dashed away. Hong Wukue scratched his head in puzzlement. How could he ignore the treasure right in front of him? Shan Shayu, light as a swallow, landed gracefully. Through the iron bars, he saw a group of people from the north imprisoned inside. Hong Wukue, who followed closely behind, was also quite surprised. But Shan Shayu's eyes grew gradually colder. He slowly extended his left hand. Visible to the naked eye, a powerful chi enveloped it. Immediately, a powerful and domineering force surged forth. It actually shook an entire wall down with a thunderous crash. Hearing the unusual sound, Murong Dongtian's eyebrows shot up in anger. He then looked in the direction from which the sound came. He saw an old man and a young person standing there quietly. He recognized the imposing-looking old man. It was Hong Wukue, the elder of the Ma gang. Murong Dongtian issued a cold order. Guanger, Jir, take the Black Sword Squad and eliminate those two people. Remember, don't let anyone leave Biling Cave alive. Murong Guang and his sister's eyes sharpened, and they responded solemnly. Meanwhile, Shan Shayu shattered the prison wall with a palm strike, then spoke calmly. Is Wu Xingyu's father here? A man in the corner struggled to his feet and approached. His voice trembling, the man began to ask a series of questions. I am Xingyu's father. Do you know Xingyu? How is the child? How is the child's mother? Dan Xiaoyu gently nodded, indicating that they were both fine. He then led the man back to be reunited with them. The man immediately burst into tears upon hearing this. Then, his knees buckled, and he knelt down. Thank you, young hero, for saving us. Otherwise, we would all have died here without knowing why. Speaking of this, the man wept uncontrollably. Hundreds of us have already died. Murong Dongtian is a devil. Hong Wukue spoke with grief. I never thought that old scoundrel was the culprit. Shan Shayu's eyes flashed with killing intent. I must confront that Murong Dongtian. Just then, a voice suddenly rang out. You dare secretly release these northern slaves? You are incredibly bold. Hearing the word slaves, Shan Shayu's anger flared. He then coldly swept his gaze across them. The newcomers were none other than the Murong siblings he had encountered earlier. Shan Shayu's face was like frost, and he coldly questioned, who did you call a slave? Seeing the other party's intimidating presence, Murong Ji dared not answer for a moment. Could this young man also be from Northern Sai? While Hong Wukue inwardly cried out in trouble. Rumors had it that the Murong family had spent 20 years cultivating a group of swordsmen. Now it seemed that this group was the legendary Black Swordsman. Old man, please take care of these people from the north for me for now. Hong Wukue hurriedly asked Shan Shayu what he intended to do. I said, I'm going to meet that old scoundrel, Murong Dongtian. Hearing this, a black-clothed swordsman immediately flew into a rage. How dare you? Is it appropriate for you to address the head of the family so directly? The young man, unfazed, calmly stepped forward and coldly said, Get lost. The man in black abruptly stepped forward with his left foot. He then gathered his inner strength into his long sword. Threads of true energy remained hidden, unreleased. Seeing this, Hong Wukue's heart trembled. The effort that Murong Dongtian had invested far exceeded his imagination. Facing the profound inner strength displayed by the swordsman, Shan Shayu remained expressionless. The boy's arms suddenly trembled, and strands of powerful energy burst forth from his body. A cruel smile played on Shan Shayu's lips. He then stepped forward and drifted away. He actually met the sword point head-on with his palm, boldly striking it. Under the boy's unbelievably shocked gaze, the fine steel long sword shattered inch by inch. The smile on Shan Shayu's face deepened. Want the heavenly soul, General? You'll have to pay with your life. Having spoken, a fair hand was already imprinted on the swordsman's dantian. The next second, surging power, like a tidal wave, poured into the opponent's meridians in an instant. The swordsman immediately spurted out a jet of blood. Shan Shayu's long hair flew, and he coldly roared, Anyone who blocks me, dies. At that moment, a clang of metal was heard. Murong Guang's siblings moved swiftly, rushing forward. The siblings, each wielding a weapon, attacked Shan Shayu together. Tong looked at them coldly, his voice icy. You want to die too? Having spoken, the young man gathered his surging power in his palm. Immediately, his aura suddenly soared. Then today, I will simply eliminate you, the Murong family. Suddenly, a slipper stopped Murong Ji's sword. It was Hong Wukue, who had struck first. Dan Shayu blocked their attack. Murong Shuangjia attacked together, sending Lao Qima flying. But Hong Wukue twisted, turned, and landed gracefully. I'm not busy yet. Why don't you let him go? I'll have a few rounds with you. Having said that, Hong Wukue glared at Dan Shayu. What are you standing there for? Go quickly. The latter smiled slightly, everything unspoken. At this time, Murong Guang gave a low order. Black Sword Team, stop him. A group of black-clothed swordsmen roared in agreement and attacked. Shan Shayu smiled proudly. Since the other party was determined to seek death, he didn't mind a massacre. When the young man was learning his craft, his master broke his arm. Therefore, after his first attack, he could dislocate someone's joints. With one elbow strike, Shan Shayu crippled the black-clothed swordsman's arm. Immediately, he delivered a fierce palm strike, hitting the man squarely in the abdomen. The latter instantly flew backward like a broken kite. The young man flashed to another swordsman. He struck the man's lower leg with his foot, instantly breaking it. Shan Shayu suddenly raised his left hand. With a swift palm strike, he hit the man squarely on the jaw. The swordsman was instantly blasted several meters away, his fate unknown. At that moment, another swordsman leaped forward. A fierce glint flashed in the swordsman's eyes from behind his helmet. He thrust his sword straight at Shan Shayu's back. Hearing the wind behind him, Shan Shayu smiled coldly. The next second, the swordsman felt a blur before his eyes. The young man in front of him had vanished. By then, Shan Shayu had already moved behind him. Shan Shayu calmly reached out his left hand, seizing the swordsman's neck. Simultaneously, his right hand suddenly clamped down on the opponent's sword-wielding wrist. With a burst of energy from his palm, the man's long sword immediately flew from his hand. Shan Shayu exerted force with his feet, flipped, and leaped up. The young man's body spun like a top, ceaselessly rotating. Using the power of the spin, he flung the swordsman high into the air. Shan Shayu raised his right palm, holding it before him. He poured his powerful energy into his palm. Then, he fiercely struck out with a palm. It landed squarely on the hilt of the falling sword. Instantly, the long sword shot out like a rainbow piercing the sun. In the blink of an eye, it pierced through the bodies of 3 swordsmen. The 3 men spurted blood and died on the spot. The long sword, its momentum undiminished, continued straight into the cave wall. Seeing this, the remaining swordsmen were shocked. But Shan Shayu continued his movements without pause. The young man annealed his energy to his limbs and body. Shan Shayu's eyes shot out sharp rays of light. Have you ever heard of the Heaven's Soul Warlord? Today, I will make you remember me forever. Having said that, Shan Shayu suddenly unleashed a powerful energy blast. The leading swordsman was instantly killed. Then, one after another, energy blasts came like a violent storm. Several swordsmen were hit by the blasts and instantly killed. Shan Shayu, like a tiger descending a mountain, charged through the crowd, left and right. For a moment, no one could stand against him. A swordsman roared, thrusting his sword towards the boy's head. But Shan Shayu didn't dodge or avoid, charging straight ahead. He shot out 2 fingers like lightning. He firmly clamped down on the sword point. Seeing this, the swordsman's face changed drastically. A chilling coldness filled Shan Shayu's eyes. He suddenly exerted force with 2 fingers. The fine steel sword was twisted into a pretzel in his hands. The immense force traveled along the sword into the swordsman's arm. The swordsman's entire arm was subsequently twisted, breaking bones and tendons. The tremendous twisting force sent the swordsman flying into the air. He then crashed heavily to the ground, his fate unknown. But more black-clothed swordsmen continued their fearless attack. Faced with the overwhelming onslaught of swordsmen, Shan Shayu showed no fear. A cold glint flashed in the boy's eyes. Then, he pushed off the ground with his feet. Several ice crystals were sent flying by Shan Shayu's kick. The boy gathered his energy in his dantian and annealed it into his palms. As the ice crystals in the air fell before him, Shan Shayu thrust his palms forward with a powerful blow. Countless ice crystals shot out like arrows from a bow. The tiny ice crystals, carrying the force of wind and thunder, fiercely crashed into the crowd. Too many swordsmen to dodge in time. Several ice crystals exploded in the crowd. The surging force raged wildly. Amidst the rising mist, screams echoed incessantly. Unexpectedly, the Black Sword Squad was exceptionally brave. A large number of swordsmen still charged forward relentlessly. The youth, with one hand behind his back, suddenly raised his right palm. His long robe fluttered without a breeze. A group of swordsmen in black instantly appeared before Shan Shayu, but they were not in a hurry to attack. Instead, they moved like ghosts, circling Shan Shayu. Shan Shayu secretly gathered his inner strength in his right palm. His expression was cold and resolute as he watched their movements. After a moment, dozens of swordsmen turned and gathered together. They formed a vortex, engulfing Shan Shayu within. The vortex tightened, sealing off all of Shan Shayu's escape routes. Shan Shayu remained calm and unfazed by the scene. Yet, countless swords suddenly shot out from the vortex. The Black Swords team used their Beidou Juming formation, which they had practiced for 20 years. A dense fog of sword shadows enveloped Shan Shayu. At that moment, the boy's calm eyes suddenly sharpened. He immediately crouched down, bending at the waist, and fiercely struck the ground with a palm strike. A slight smile played on Shan Shayu's lips. Immediately, a surge of power erupted from his palm. A surging, vast wave of Jinqi instantly surged forth. The Black Sword team's newly formed sword formation was shattered and scattered. For a moment, the entire Biling cave seemed to tremble. Hong Wukui and the other 2, locked in fierce battle, suddenly paused. All 3 turned their heads in disbelief. They saw a huge, deep crater had appeared on the previously smooth ice lake. Murong Guang made a snap decision. Jir, go and deal with those people from the north. Then return quickly to your father's side. I'll handle this old man. Having said that, Murong Guang pressed forward, his palm sweeping towards Hong Wukui. Hong Wukui somersaulted, leaping into the air. The old beggar clearly showed his true anger this time. I would have let it be, but those people from the north are innocent. Having said that, Hong Wukue drew a soft whip from his waist. The old beggar spun in the air, twisting his waist. He used the force of the spin to whip out his long whip. The whip, like a dragon emerging from the sea, lashed out at the Morong siblings. The brother and sister, wielding their weapons, desperately parried the blow. Hong Wukue, his attack failing, used the recoil to leap back. He gracefully retreated several meters, creating distance between himself and the Morong siblings. The old beggar shook his long whip and let out a hearty laugh. Today, I shall let you two little brats witness my ultimate skill. The family head personally killed 50 clan elders. He painstakingly secluded himself for 20 years, solely to forge a pair of golden wheels. Now that his skills have reached their peak, he finally reveals his sharp fangs. With a sudden movement, Morong Dongtian brings down the golden wheels in his hands. Ji Wuxue is instantly bisected, killed on the spot. Seeing this, Zhemu Lin is filled with shock and rage. With a roar, he swiftly dashes towards Morong Dongtian. He wields his double-bladed sword, using the momentum of his descent to fiercely strike down. But unexpectedly, a silver light suddenly appeared from the middle of the road. Time and the long sword collided. It was actually Morong Juncheng who arrived. He blocked the powerful blow with his silver wheel. Zhemu Lin's pupils suddenly constricted. He didn't expect Morong Juncheng to also master this martial art. But Morong Juncheng's eyes were fierce. Zhemu Lin, I've always been curious. Why are you considered one of the three heroes? Meanwhile, Wan Xingxian's siblings also charged forward. Li Ren attacked together. But before the siblings could get close, they were blasted away by golden wheels. Slender Hand suddenly reached out. His figure flashed, rushing towards Wan Zhixiang in the distance. Before the latter could react, his throat was seized. Morong Dongtian lifted Wan Zhixiang with one hand, his voice chilling. The Morong family's conquest of the Central Plains is imminent. But your Dali fortress remains a hidden danger. Especially these past 20 years, you've acted as the overlord of Liaoning. I greatly dislike this. At that moment, a tremendous roar shook Bailing Cave. Morong Dongtian's heart trembled, and he quickly turned to look. He saw countless cloaked figures thrown into the air in the distance. Shouts of "Xiao" rose and fell. Morong Dongtian casually tossed Wan Zhixiang aside. He then focused his gaze on the distance. He saw countless black-clothed swordsmen lying dead, scattered haphazardly on the ground. Not a single one survived. Morong Dongtian was shaken to his core, his disbelief palpable. The elite force he had spent 10 years cultivating was annihilated in an instant. At that moment, a figure gracefully approached. The boy stood proudly with his hands behind his back. It was none other than the formidable Shan Shayu. Shan Shayu stood on the stone platform, avoiding eye contact with Morong Dongtian. A chilling killing intent shone in the boy's eyes. Old dog, what right do you have to scorn the lives of those from the north? The strong prey on the weak, it's an unchanging law of the universe. Perhaps you possess some mediocre skills, but to stand up for those slaves is simply reckless. You mean whoever has the bigger fist is right? Fine, let's see whose fist is bigger. Morong Jun and the other person nearby also noticed the situation. Zhemu Lin recognized him as the same person he had met at the inn earlier, Shan Shayu. Then he saw the giant pit, more than 10 meters in diameter. The young elite of the Lion Alliance's face changed slightly. He keenly sensed a deep fear of Shan Shayu within himself. It wasn't simply fear. Not because the other party could single-handedly wipe out the Black Sword squad of over 100 men, nor because Shan Shayu could create a giant crater with a single palm strike, but because of the aura of annihilation emanating from Shan Shayu. A drop of cold sweat involuntarily trickled down Zhemu Lin's temple. That aura of annihilation chilled him to the bone. At that moment, Morong Juncheng was the first to regain his senses. Your opponent is me. Having spoken, Morong Juncheng pressed forward, wielding his silver wheel in a fierce downward strike. Zhemu Lin quickly blocked with his blade. However, he was forced back several steps by the immense force. Zhemu Lin forcefully suppressed the surging blood within him. Then, his eyes, like those of an enraged lion, fiercely glared at his opponent. Morong Juncheng, aren't you curious why I'm worthy of the title, Three Heroes? Today, I will show you whether I deserve the title of Three Heroes. Meanwhile, upon hearing Shan Shayu's words, Morong Dongtian let out a cold smile. The annihilation golden will moved under his control as if it were an extension of his own arm. Ignorant child, presumptuous. I have already mastered the legacy of the Northern Ridge Emperor. Who in the world is my match? Having spoken, Morong Dongtian annealed his formidable inner energy into his left hand. Then he raised it high. The golden wheel revolved and danced beside him. For a moment, golden light filled the surrounding area. Morong Dongtian's withered left hand suddenly swept forward. Driven by his powerful force, the golden wheel shot towards its target. With the force of wind and thunder, the golden wheel instantly reached Shan Shayu. Unexpectedly, the young man neither dodged nor evaded. Shan Shayu slowly raised his left hand. The youth stood proudly, one hand behind his back. Then, he calmly extended his left hand. A surging, blue energy pulsed incessantly on his fair arm. Shan Shayu actually caught the incredibly sharp annihilation golden wheel with his bare hand. In an instant, the two immense forces collided. The surging power rippled outwards. The youth's expression remained unchanged, his eyes calm. The next second, a deafening roar erupted out of nowhere. Murong Dongtian laughed wildly. This shattering golden wheel is the culmination of 20 years of my efforts. The unparalleled legacy of the Northern Ridge Emperor. You arrogant brat, you dare to try and withstand it with your bare hands? You're trying to shake a mountain with a twig. It's utterly presumptuous. Unexpectedly, a calm voice from the young man came from within the dust and smoke. Just a pair of neck rings, and you dare to call yourself invincible. Old fellow, you must still be asleep. Murong Dongtian's pupils suddenly constricted in disbelief. The dust settled, and Shan Shayu stood unmoved, speaking coldly. So this is why the Murong family collected all that gold. Murong Dongtian's heart trembled at these words. Could it be that you stole the gold from Benji? Shan Shayu didn't answer, but sighed softly. So many people died just for this thing. You're so boring, old man. A sarcastic smile curved the young man's lips. I don't want this broken wheel. Here, take it back. With these words, Shan Shayu struck the golden wheel with a powerful palm. The shattered golden wheel instantly shot away like an arrow from a bow. Its power was even greater than when it was controlled by Murong Dongtian. It flew straight towards Murong Dongtian on the high platform. The latter dared not receive it directly. He hastily mobilized another shattered golden wheel. Murong Dongtian swung his right hand suddenly. He flung another golden wheel out with a flick of his wrist. The two golden wheels collided violently in midair. For a moment, the sound of clashing metal was like a huge bell. Immense power raged and assaulted the area for a time. It even shook the surrounding high platform, causing stones to fly everywhere. Murong Dongtian's heart was startled. He never expected Dan Xiaoyu's single palm strike to be so terrifying. He quickly channeled all his inner strength into his palms. He struggled to control the golden wheel, desperately resisting. It seemed he was about to be unable to withstand it. Terror filled the old eyes of Murong Dongtian. Finally, the golden wheel flew off, less than 2 feet in front of him. He lowered his head, looking at his hands that were still trembling. Murong Dongtian was still shaken. And at this moment, Shan Shayu's voice came again. Logically speaking, you are the head of the prestigious Murong family. I should have let you die with more dignity. Suddenly, the young man's tone changed. But thinking about the suffering those people from the north endured before their deaths. Speaking of which, Shan Shayu's inner energy suddenly erupted. Waves of powerful energy surged outwards. The young man's long hair flew, his face a sneer. So I can't let you die too easily. Having said that, Shan Shayu attacked fiercely. His figure, like a tiger descending a mountain, suddenly pounced. Murong Dongtian hurriedly recalled a pair of annihilation golden wheels. This lord, who dominates one side, had never suffered such humiliation. Murong Dongtian waved both hands and shouted angrily, with your mediocre skills, you dare to be so arrogant. Wanting to kill me, Murong Dongtian, isn't that easy. Having spoken, he pulled the two golden wheels and charged straight at Shan Shayu. The latter exerted himself and leaped up. Shan Shayu, like a butterfly flitting through flowers, floated gracefully between the two golden wheels. The young man used his 5 fingers to grip the ground, stabilizing his body. His words were filled with killing intent. Old geezer, you say my martial arts are third-rate? Shan Shayu slammed his right palm onto the ground. Using the recoil, he violently surged upwards. Today, let me show you if my heavenly soul divine art is just a child's play. Having said that, the young man twisted his waist, turned around, and fiercely kicked towards Murong Dongtian. He was the head of the Murong family, a powerful figure in his own right. But now, he's being beaten down by a young boy. Shan Shayu leaped into the air and fiercely kicked down. Murong Dongtian quickly raised his arm to block, barely managing to defend himself. The immense force transmitted through his arm left him incredulous. This young man, so young, possesses such refined internal energy. Shan Shayu, however, used the recoil to smoothly turn his body. A whip-like leg swept across, striking the opponent's head. Murong Dongtian was immediately swept away by the kick. A chilling coldness filled the young man's eyes. Old dog, watch carefully. This is the Tianpa divine skill you called a mere 3-legged cat. Having said that, Shan Shayu leaped and charged forward. Murong Dongtian was no pushover either. He immediately unleashed the annihilation golden wheel to counterattack. The wheel spun rapidly, slicing towards Shan Shayu's throat. Unexpectedly, Shan Shayu easily dodged it by crouching and bending. The young man stepped forward and delivered a powerful palm strike. Murong Dongtian couldn't dodge in time and was struck in the abdomen. His body flew out like a broken kite. Suffering consecutive setbacks, the Murong family head was enraged. He roared, and a vast amount of true chi erupted from his body. Murong Dongtian channeled his inner strength into both palms. Then he suddenly swung them forward. Pulling the two annihilation golden wheels, he attacked Shan Shayu again. The speed of the annihilation golden wheels suddenly increased several times. In an instant, they flew to Shan Shayu's side, but Shan Shayu was light as a wisp of smoke. In a flash, the wheels passed through him again, leaving him unharmed. Murong Dongtian was still not giving up. He suddenly retracted his open palm into a fist at his waist. The two golden wheels spun back under his control. The golden wheels repeatedly sliced across Shan Shayu. Murong Dongtian was overjoyed. "Arrogant brat, you're courting death." But before he could finish, the family head's face suddenly changed. Shan Shayu's body began to gradually dissipate. The golden wheels had only cut through an afterimage. But at this moment, Shan Shayu had already leaped into the air. Murong Dongtian suddenly looked up. He saw the other party already approaching. Shan Shayu kicked down from mid-air, aiming straight for Murong Dongtian's head. The latter quickly raised his arms to block, barely parrying the kick. Shan Shayu, having missed his attack, used the recoil to withdraw. Then he gracefully landed, creating distance between himself and Murong Dongtian. The young man held his hands clasped at his sides. The internal force in his palms suddenly condensed. Shan Shayu's voice was like ancient ice. "Old dog, this will be a pain you'll never forget." Having said that, the young man pressed forward. His palms crossed, attacking Murong Dongtian. The latter slapped at the youth, attempting a counterattack. But Shan Shayu anticipated his move, cutting off his offensive. Shan Shayu's right hand formed a claw, seizing the other's upper arm. Then, his left hand swiftly grasped Murong Dongtian's forearm. Simultaneously, he infused his powerful internal energy into it with both hands. The domineering internal energy immediately raged and assaulted Murong Dongtian's right arm. The powerful spiral force also caused Murong Dongtian to lose his balance. Dan Shayu, having succeeded with one move, didn't stop. He delivered a palm strike, forcefully hitting Murong Dongtian's palm. It's likely a specific acupuncture point, needs context for accurate translation. Surging energy poured into him from the point needs clarification. It swiftly surged through Murong Dongtian's body along the Juyan heart meridian. The surging force surged through his body. It shook the surrounding area, sending rocks flying. Murong Dongtian felt a surge of vital energy rushing to his head. In moments, his right eye began to bleed. Shan Shayu let out a cold, faint smile and spoke. "Old man, this is just the beginning." Meanwhile, on another battlefield, Murong Junsheng and Jamu Lin were locked in fierce battle. Jamu Lin forced Murong Junsheng back with a single strike, then spoke coldly. "Do you still doubt my position as one of the three heroes now?" Murong Junsheng roared angrily and attacked again. Unexpectedly, as he was stopping to the north, a powerful force shot past. Immediately, a loud boom echoed in the distance, exploding out of nowhere. Both men, locked in combat, were startled. Jamu Lin hastily turned his head, looking in the direction of the sound. Murong Junsheng sensed something was amiss and secretly glanced in the same direction. After the dust settled, an old man stood frozen in place. It was Murong Dongtian, his body covered in wounds. Seeing his father's terrible state, Murong Junsheng cried out anxiously. But at this moment, Murong Dongtian was too preoccupied to respond. He endured the raging internal energy in his body and looked at his right arm. He prepared to forcibly suppress Shan Shayu's internal energy with his own. Shan Shayu, not far away, seemed to have guessed his thoughts. "If you want to live a little longer, you'd better not do that. If you use your luck, you're as good as dead." Hearing this, Murong Dongtian ground his teeth in anger. His face contorted, he roared furiously. "Damn you! I've roamed the Jianghu for 60 years. How dare you speak to me like that? You say I'll die if I use my luck. I refuse to believe it." With that, Murong Dongtian channeled his inner energy into his right arm. He actually suppressed Shan Shayu's formidable internal energy. Murong Dongtian laughed wildly. "What can a mere two of you do to this old man?" Shan Shayu looked at Murong Dongtian quietly. His eyes were filled with pity, as if looking at a dead man. Sure enough, the moment Murong Dongtian finished speaking, his face drastically changed. The internal energy that had been suppressed suddenly surged. It rampaged within the meridians of his right arm, even more violently than before. Blood flowed from Murong Dongtian's nose and mouth. His face was filled with shock. He discovered that the qi and blood in his body were beginning to become disordered. Murong Dongtian quickly extended his left hand, using 2 fingers, and immediately pressed the K pen point on his right arm. He attempted to sever the connection between the forceful energy in his right arm and the qi and blood in his body. Unexpectedly, as his true energy surged in, Murong Dongtian's expression changed drastically again. The forceful energy in his right arm was not only not suppressed, instead, it became even more frantic and rampant. Murong Dongtian forced himself to endure, but the surging energy in his right arm was already making him teeter on the brink of collapse. Shan Shayu crossed his arms and spoke softly. "Sealing the acupoints is a good idea, but with your current internal energy, you simply can't do it. This true qi will travel from your right arm throughout your meridians. I told you, Person 7, I won't let you die so easily." Upon hearing this, a cruel look appeared on Murong Dongtian's face. Immediately, he endured the pain and extended his left hand. The 2 shattered golden wheels spun back towards him under his control. Dan Shayu pushed off the ground, leaped, and easily dodged them. "Why bother wasting your energy? With your current strength, you can't hurt me at all. Unexpectedly, before he finished speaking, his pupils constricted suddenly. He saw that Murong Dongtian was manipulating the golden wheels. He had his right arm severed at the shoulder. You can't imagine how ruthless the heads of prominent families can be. To save his life, he didn't hesitate to cut off his own arm. Seeing how decisive was, Shan Shayu couldn't help but admire the family head somewhat. Severing the arm does indeed stop the flow of internal energy. It seems I underestimated you. However, didn't appreciate the boy's compliment. He suddenly raised his left hand above his head. A surge of scorching true chi surged forth, instantly enveloping the golden wheel. Under his control, the pair of golden wheels were like blazing phoenixes. The surrounding space seemed to be distorted and warped by the scorching heat. Dongtian's old eyes were filled with venom. Little darling, I swear, today I will flay you and draw out your tendons. Having spoken, Murong Dongtian's true energy surged outwards. Two golden wheels spun rapidly, instantly whipping up a raging inferno. Waves of scorching energy spread wildly. They even incinerated the surrounding rocks. Seeing this, Dan Shayu's expression tightened. On the stone platform, Murong Dongtian was like the sun in the sky. Endless waves of scorching heat, with him as the center, swept towards the entire Biling cave. Even Jamu and Lin, who were fiercely battling in the distance, were enveloped within. The sudden change caused both of them to freeze. They both turned to look at the stone platform in disbelief. Little darling, you've ruined the great plan of my Murong family. Prepare to die. Facing such overwhelming power, Shan Shayu calmly stood there with his hands in his pockets, unafraid. If you had used this move earlier, you wouldn't have had to cut off your own right arm. After saying this, the young man took a swift step back with his left foot, channeling his domineering internal energy into both palms. Shan Shayu bent down, his palms cupping his dantian. Blue chi surged endlessly within his palms. The young man's eyes were filled with killing intent as he coldly spoke. Old dog, I said I would take your life. With that, Shan Shayu let out a light shout and pushed out with both palms. A powerful and domineering force surged forth. It collided explosively with the blazing mass of true chi. The young man's inner chi flowed like a great river flowing east. Energy continuously converged between his palms. The power of that formidable energy surged suddenly. It completely dispersed the flames enveloping the golden wheel. As Shan Shayu's palms suddenly clenched, the indestructible golden wheels of destruction shattered with a loud bang. Immediately, thunder echoed in the midair. A series of deafening explosions shook the entire Biling cave. Jamu and Lin, in the distance, both used all their strength to resist the impact. Murong Junsheng struggled to his feet and shouted loudly, "Father!" One Jai Xiang, who was already seriously injured, was also caught in the crossfire. The Lord of Dali Fort was shot to the point of spitting blood. The rest of Dali Fort's men were even worse. They were thrown into the air by the ferocious force and then crashed heavily to the ground. Murong Dongtian channeled all his inner energy to resist. He still couldn't accept the truth. The Northern Ridge Emperor's annihilation golden wheel was easily destroyed by the young man before him. The voice of the family head, who once dominated the region, trembled. Who are you?" A cold sneer curved the young man's lips. The 35th generation celestial martial general, Shan Shayu. 20 years ago, after discovering the Northern Ridge Cave, I meticulously PLN'd all of this. I poured 10 years of my heart and soul into it. He even ruthlessly purged all the family elders who opposed the plan. And now, it's all ruined because of you, a mere youngster. What grievance do you have against my family? Shan Shayu didn't answer, but walked forward. Dongtian's face showed terror as he retreated. Don't come closer, don't come near me. The head of the family, a renowned hero, fell to the ground. He watched as Shan Shayu approached slowly, his face filled with killing intent. The already weakened Murong Dongtian begged pathetically, "Please, don't kill me, I want to live. I'll give you anything you want." Did you ever grant such requests when those northerners begged you? They were mere insignificant insects, worthless. I am different. I am the head of the Murong family. Don't you want the legacy of the Northern Ridge Emperor? I can give you everything, please don't kill me. From afar, Murong Junsheng watched this scene in disbelief. The eldest son of the Murong family gnashed his teeth. 10 years of careful PLNing were all ruined by an unknown nobody. He immediately forgot about his fight with Shamu Lin, and leaped away. At that moment, a figure flashed behind him like a ghost. Before he could react, a cold light suddenly arrived. Murong Junsheng managed to dodge the vital point, but he was still cut on the cheek by the cold light. A few drops of bright red blood fell to the ground. Murong Junsheng was actually blinded in his left eye by Shamu Lin's single strike. The eldest son of the Murong family is indeed extraordinary. Even when facing me, Shamu Lin, he dares to be distracted. Murong Junsheng struggled, enraged. Young man, you're not playing fair. A sneak attack. With that, he swung his right palm towards Shamu Lin. The silver wheel flew straight for the latter's throat. Shamu Lin chopped down with his blade, colliding with the silver wheel. But unexpectedly, Furious Strike was incredibly powerful. Zhamu Lin was immediately knocked back several steps, landed a successful blow. He channeled his profound inner strength into his fist. Then, he moved forward swiftly, closing the distance. He delivered a powerful punch, striking Zhamu Lin in the abdomen. The latter was immediately sent flying several meters by the forceful blow. Zhamu Lin felt a sweetness in his throat. He gritted his teeth, but still spat out a mouthful of blood. After knocking back Zhamu Lin with a single punch, Morong Juncheng recalled his silver wheel. Then, with a sudden swing, he sent the silver wheel flying. Immediately, his toes touched the ground, following the silver wheel towards the stone platform. The silver wheel spun, aiming straight for Shan Shayu's neck. Just as the boy was about to strike, he suddenly froze. With a casual swing of his right palm, he deflected the silver wheel's attack. Unexpectedly, target wasn't him, but to save his father. Caught his father who had fallen onto his shoulder. I will remember this humiliation. I will repay you tenfold in the future. Having said that, Morong Juncheng exerted himself, leaping up. In an instant, he had already fled dozens of meters away. Shan Shayu knew that if you don't eliminate the root, the weed will grow again. The young man immediately extended his right palm, about to attack. Unexpectedly, Morong Juncheng, who had already escaped far away, was the first to attack. He manipulated the silver wheel, rushing towards Shan Shayu. You're as foolish as your father. This attack is completely ineffective. Unexpectedly, Morong Juncheng's eyes suddenly narrowed. Immediately, he extended his left hand, and with 2 fingers, lightly flicked. Under the pull of his force, the silver wheel instantly changed direction. It actually avoided Shan Shayu and flew towards his back. Immediately, a loud crashing sound came from behind him. Shan Shayu's pupils constricted, and he secretly felt something was wrong. Looking sideways, he saw a stone pillar severed in 2. The stone pillar, weighing over 10,000 jin, suddenly crashed down. Shan Shayu's expression remained unchanged as he calmly spoke. This is something I didn't expect. The next second, the enormous stone pillar crashed down with a thunderous roar. Dust and smoke billowed, burying him beneath. This old geezer, when fighting, always wears only flip-flops. Fighting the Morong twins alone, he still didn't lose ground. Hong Wukuei shook the long whip in his hand and let out a chuckle. Little ones, let me show you the power of this old man. Unexpectedly, before his words finished, Morong Guang fiercely attacked. The second young master, using the force of a spin, unleashed a powerful strike. Hong Wukuei immediately countered with his whip. Whip and strike collided with a thunderous boom in midair. Lao Qima gracefully retreated to maintain distance. Morong Guang pressed forward, seeking close quarters combat. Morong Ji leaped and swiftly followed. The girl's movements were incredibly fast. In an instant, she surprisingly struck first and surpassed Morong Guang. Morong Ji leaped to Hong Wukuei's rear, cutting off his escape route. Immediately, he thrust his sword towards the old man's throat. The latter quickly dodged. But at that moment, Morong Guang's folding fan arrived suddenly. Hong Wukuei performed a dry land sprout move, leaping upwards. He narrowly avoided the siblings' combined attack. Lao Chi steadies himself with one hand on the ground. He suddenly spreads his legs, aiming at Morong Xuanjia. The siblings' pursuit was too aggressive, and they couldn't stop in time. They were immediately caught off guard by Hong Wukuei. Lao Chi, seizing the opportunity, relentlessly pursued and attacked. He suddenly flung out his whip. The whip, like a monstrous creature emerging from its lair, firmly entangled Morong Guang. Hong Wukuei exerted a strong pull with his whip-holding right hand. He actually lifted a man weighing over 100 pounds. Morong Guang was tightly bound and couldn't escape. Hong Wukuei swung him directly towards Morong Ji. The siblings collided in midair. Lao Chi flicked his wrist and retracted the whip. The Morong siblings were sent flying and fell to the ground. They struggled to their feet. Both were covered in dust and dirt. Hong Wukuei spoke with sarcasm. Is this the strength of the Morong family, supposedly the #1 in Shenyang? Even we, the Qiao Bang, wouldn't dare to casually control the life and death of others. With your strength, you dare to trifle with human life? Unexpectedly, at that moment, a loud bang came from afar. Hearing this, Hong Wukuei couldn't help but steal a glance. He saw a massive stone pillar, weighing over 10,000 jin, collapse with a thunderous crash. The entire Biling cave seemed to tremble. Many rescued northern civilians looked terrified. Lao looked at the 6 scenes before him in disbelief. He couldn't help but worry about Shan Shayu. Morong Xuanjia looked up. They saw their elder brother, Morong Juncheng, carrying their father and fleeing rapidly. Morong Juncheng roared angrily. Guaner, Jier, retreat. I've activated the Great Destruction Formation. At that moment, a loud bang exploded out of nowhere. A domineering force surged into the sky, sending a shower of shattered stones flying. In the dust, a slender white finger shone brilliantly. Hearing the loud bang, Morong Juncheng turned to look. He saw Shan Shayu standing proudly, his expression solemn. The surging force around him suddenly erupted. The stone pillar, as large as a small mountain, shattered piece by piece. Seeing this, Morong Juncheng was incredulous. He had never seen such domineering and overbearing martial arts. At this moment, Murong-ji cried out shrilly, "Big brother, don't activate the Grand Annihilation Formation yet. Wait for me and second brother." Shan Shayu had excellent hearing. Hearing Murong-ji's words, his heart sank. Meanwhile, strange sounds were already coming from above the Biling cave. Murong-ji looked anxious. "Second brother, we must leave immediately." Unexpectedly, Guang's face was filled with madness. "I won't leave, even if I die in the Biling cave. I must settle the score with this old beggar." Ji looked at his elder brother in disbelief. The girl was momentarily at a loss. "Do you think your meager martial arts skills can defeat me?" Guang's long hair flew, his face contorted in struggle. "Old man, cut the crap. I'll break your limbs first. Then I'll slaughter those northern slaves before your eyes." Unexpectedly, at this moment, a cold voice faintly came. The killing intent in Shan Shayu's eyes was fierce. "With you?" Before the sound finished, Shan Shayu had already flashed to his side and struck with a palm. Immediately, Murong Guang flew out like a leaf in the wind. He crashed into a rock more than 10 jang away. The force was so great that it shattered the rock. Murong Guang's folding fan fell heavily to the ground. He tumbled several jang before finally stopping. Seeing this, Murong Ji was shocked and enraged. She let out a cry and leaped towards him. Murong Guang struggled several times but couldn't get up. Murong Ji quickly helped her brother up and anxiously asked him questions. "Second brother, what's wrong with you? Wake up." At this moment, a voice full of mockery came. "You can disregard others' lives, but you treasure your own brother's life so much." With a complex expression, Murong Ji asked, "Why do you have to go against our Murong family?" "Me? Go against you? It's clearly you who are making things difficult for me. You're being unreasonable. You were also the one who stole that batch of gold in Benshi, weren't you? What exactly is your goal?" "I traveled all the way from northern China to the Central Plains, investigating along the way and discovering 2 clues. However, both clues point to your Murong family. One is that 10 years ago, a group of Yuan dynasty envoys came to northern China. They passed through Shenyang and entered Changsa Mountain. But at that time, the Murong family was in seclusion. Perhaps this matter has nothing to do with you. But another matter happened 20 years ago. At that time, your Murong family secretly imprisoned a large number of northern nomads. A girl, via the Blood Tears Plateau, escaped to Shenyang and disappeared. Do you dare say this has nothing to do with your Murong family?" An old man in the crowd's face changed upon hearing this. Could this young man be here to look for that girl? The people talking hadn't yet realized the danger approaching. Suddenly, a deafening roar echoed from above the Biling cave. Murong Ji's face drastically changed. She never expected that before she and her second brother could escape, her elder brother would activate the Great Destruction Formation. Countless pre-planted thunder bombs detonated in succession. The sound of BZ explosions echoed throughout the cave. Even Hong Wukue, a skilled expert, showed a look of astonishment when faced with such powerful BZ. Meanwhile, Murong Ji seemed to have accepted her fate. The girl looked at Shan Shayu with a complex expression. "Back at the Beibin Inn, I sensed you were extraordinary. I never imagined you were such a hidden master. But in the Jianghu, those who meddle in other people's business rarely live long. Now you too will be left to die here in Biling Cave, even if you manage to survive. I will definitely find you and take revenge in the future." Having said that, Murong Ji leaped up carrying Murong Guang on his back. Ignoring the impact, he flew towards the top of the cave. Accompanied by a tremendous roar that echoed through the night sky, the entire Biling cave collapsed into ruins. Half a month later, in the grand mansion of the Murong family, under the setting sun, Murong Dongtian sits in the main hall, drowning his sorrows in alcohol. In just half a month, the family head seems to have aged 10 years. Even with his cold and detached nature, the loss of his son in his old age is still a devastating blow. Murong Dongtian drinks the last drop of wine from the pot, casually throws it on the ground, and mutters to himself, "Guanger, your death was just an accident. What are we, the men of the Murong family, afraid of death? Father will avenge you. First, I will eliminate the remnants of Dali Fort. Then, starting with Dali Fort, I will unease the surrounding forces. Given time, I can surpass the 5 great families. Just give me a little more time. This time, no one will disrupt my plans." Murong Dongtian clenched his aching, severed arm. "The image of that boy remains etched in my heart." The aging patriarch leans back in his chair, his mind hazy with drink. Who that boy was is no longer important to him, regardless of his origin or affiliation. Knowing he's dead in the Northern Ridge Cave is enough. The midnight wind blows high, shaking the looms. The mid-heaven moon shines on the green pines. Murong Dongtian slowly opens his heavy, drunken eyes. "But I found the boy, the one I considered a demon, standing before me." Shan Shayu, looking down from above, spoke softly. "Old man, I told you, I will take your life." The Murong family personally destroyed the Biling cave, which they had excavated for 20 years, all for the sake of burying a boy inside. Unexpectedly, this boy has come looking for me again. It turns out that after the Biling cave was destroyed that day, Shan Shayu used the heavenly soul divine skill to break through the rocks. To others, the rocks seemed incredibly hard, but before him, they were like blocks of tofu. Hong Wukue, who followed closely behind, secretly admired him. If it weren't for Shan Shaoyu's skills, everyone would have been trapped to death here. Soon, everyone followed Shan Shaoyu out of the ruins. At this moment, an elderly man in the crowd suddenly spoke, asking if the girl Shan Shaoyu was searching for had the surname Han. Shan Shaoyu subtly glanced sideways upon hearing this. He stated directly that the girl's surname was indeed Han. She was about 5 or 6 years old at the time. The old man said he had been imprisoned in Biling Cave for 20 years. During that time, the Morong family captured many men, women, and children. But their main reason for capturing people was to excavate Biling Cave. Therefore, they sold the weak women and children to slave traders. The old man said the girl's name seemed to be Han Xiangya. She's a clever and quick-witted little girl. Shortly after being captured, she was sold to a merchant. The transaction ledger from that time should still be with Morong Dongtian. If we find that ledger, we might find a clue to the girl's whereabouts. Shan Shaoyu abruptly turned around after hearing this. He declared that he would personally settle this wicked karmic debt. Thus, there was his earlier nighttime intrusion into the Morong family estate. After Shan Shaoyu finished speaking, he suddenly shot out 2 fingers. He consecutively struck several major acupoints on Morong Dongtian's chest. Immediately, a fierce and domineering internal force surged into his body. After doing all this, the young man spoke coldly. I remember I said, I wouldn't let you die so easily. Now it's time to pay for what you've done. Morong Dongtian looked at the young man with terrified eyes. Then, the surging internal force within the pavilion spread wildly. It took a full quarter of an hour for it to slowly dissipate and return to calm. Soon, the sound of Morong Juanqing's voice came from outside the door. Father, as you instructed, we are preparing to depart for the Taiwu League. Jier and I will explain the necessity of eliminating Dali Fort. We will strive to gain the support of more martial arts factions. I came to bid you farewell tonight. Morong Juanqing waited for a long time but received no reply. He looked closely and his face changed dramatically. He saw Morong Dongtian collapsed in his chair, unresponsive. Streams of qi were still flowing ceaselessly through the patriarch's body. Morong Juanqing was immediately startled. Father, what's wrong with you? Jier, quickly go and summon a physician. But at this moment, Shan Shaoyu had already drifted away. The young man heard a scream from the attic and looked back. He unconsciously tightened the ledger in his hand. Shan Shaoyu leaped and bounded back to the inn where he was staying. He had just stepped onto the windowsill when a familiar voice rang out. Shan Shaoyu landed lightly and entered the room. He saw Hong Wukue already waiting inside. Although Morong Dongtian did many evil deeds, but he was still a powerful overlord in his own right. He's gone now. Aren't you going to toast him? Shan Shaoyu said he wasn't that sentimental. He was already satisfied to have found a clue about his master's daughter. Hong Wukue remained indifferent to the young man's coldness. He bluntly stated that 20 years had passed. The so-called clue might not lead them to the girl. Shan Shaoyu's brow furrowed slightly at these words. He immediately spread the ledger out on the table. Shan Shaoyu looked at Hong Wukue and spoke frankly. Actually, I'd like to ask for your help. Have you ever heard of the black merchants? Lao Chima's expression turned serious upon hearing the words, black merchants. You said that the black merchants are also known as the dark merchant group, but describing it as a group isn't entirely accurate. There are rumors that it's an alliance of many merchants, but no one knows who its true leader is. No one knows how many merchants are involved either. It's only rumored that nowhere, nothing, is untouched by the Dark Merchant Guild's interference. Even those who abide by the rules of the Jianghu, DM, the Dark Merchant Guild is involved. The only thing certain is, the Black Merchants have close ties with the Five Dragons Alliance. So, besides knowing its connection to the Five Dragons League, there are no other valuable clues. That's right. But if I were to handle it, finding that the Black Merchant wouldn't be impossible. Shan Shaoyu looked at him intently. What's the method? Unexpectedly, Hong Wukue replied. I can only reveal this much free information. The young man smiled faintly upon hearing this. Then, under the old man's shocked gaze, he offered him something. It was the night pearl he had brought back from the Wanxian cave. Hong Wukue involuntarily swallowed upon seeing it. He had never seen a night pearl of such exceptional quality, but after a moment's hesitation, he gritted his teeth and pushed the night pearl back. Shan Shaoyu was puzzled. Why would the other party, clearly moved, still refuse? Hong Wukue, however, began to recount the events of years past. It turns out that 10 years ago, he encountered Han Wubo at Blood and Tears Ridge. Seeing the power of the opponent's single palm strike, Hong Wukue's confidence, built up over decades of martial arts training, was shaken. It was also Han Wubo's words before he left that year that kept Hong Wukue in Shenyang for 10 years. He was waiting for the arrival of the old man's successor, whether it was spring turning to autumn, or wind, frost, rain, or snow. This right help elder has been waiting anxiously by the bronze black dragon statue. Until a few days ago, he saw the Iron Horse escort team pass through Blood Tear Plain. He noticed a boy sitting on a cart in the escort team. When I saw you for the first time, I knew you were the one I had been waiting for. Because your eyes, though subdued, held a divine light, were exactly the same as the old man's from back then. Shan Shayu couldn't help but slightly flinch. I didn't expect that the other party had met my master 10 years ago. So you want to obtain the heavenly soul divine art? That's right, it's what I want most. As I said before, to get information, paying a price is unavoidable. If you can accept this condition, then why don't we help each other? Shan Shayu pondered for a moment, then laughed freely. Then, cupping his hands, he spoke loudly. I'm not sure if what I know is the whole story, but I promise to share everything I have. Hong Wukui grinned upon hearing this. He returned the bow, speaking in a low voice. No matter who you want to find, or how many people, I, Hong Wukui, promise to help with all my might. Under the moonlight, the old and the young exchanged smiles. The deal is officially done. One is a remarkably skilled young martial artist, new to the world. The other is a seasoned and respected elder of the Qiaobang. Two people originally unrelated, are now traveling the Jianghu together because of a pact made last night. Early the next morning, Shan Shayu set off. The ledger shows traces of black market activity in Taiyuan, Shaanxi. Along the way, Hong Wukui pulled out a register from his bosom and handed it to him. It says here are the famous figures of the Central Plains martial arts world. If Shan Shayu wants to travel the Jianghu, he still needs to understand them. The young man immediately opened the register and studied it carefully, while Hong Wukui supplemented the introduction beside him. The register first describes one of the two saints, Huangfu Junyue, known in the Jianghu as the Fist Saint, who leads the Five Dragon League, one of the three major forces of the Iron Martial Alliance. Next is the other of the two saints, Yun Yezi, known in the martial arts world as the Plum Blossom Sword Saint, presides over the Ninefold Manor under the Iron Martial Alliance. She maintains a balance of power with Huangfu Junyue's Five Dragon Alliance. Hong Wukui stated that although these two are touted as the strongest in the martial arts world, the cultivation of the three tyrants and the four venerables is actually comparable to that of the two saints. Closely following them are the three heroes and the three flowers. The three heroes are Iron Blade Three Steps, Shadowless Blade, and Little North Wind Jade Hand. And the three flowers are Blood Plum Blossom, Unfolding Lotus, and Water Flower. They are all rising stars, few and far between in the Jianghu. Hearing this, Shayu from Zhougai Prefecture murmured thoughtfully to himself, "Not bad. The Zhemu Lin I met in Shenyang, is he the Jade Hand of the North Wind? He comes from the Lions Alliance, another major force within the Tai Wu League. The Fushun Dali Fort is also a faction under the Lions Alliance. Zhe Hao Shen, the Invincible Blade Tyrant, is known as the leader of the three tyrants. His martial arts skills rival those of the two saints. Zhemu Lin is the legitimate son of the Invincible Blade Tyrant. He's considered a leading figure among the rising stars. The three heroes and the three flowers are about your age. If you have the chance, you could try befriending them." The old and the young continued their journey towards Taiyuan Prefecture. That night, the two found a place to rest in the wilderness. Hong Wukui suddenly gulped down a mouthful of strong liquor. I felt all my fatigue vanish. But Shan Shayu continued to browse the martial arts register. After a while, the young man suddenly asked, "Old man, according to this record, is there no one stronger than the two saints?" Hong Wukui breathed slightly, then pondered carefully, saying that perhaps one person could surpass the two saints. Shan Shayu's expression turned solemn upon hearing this. It is said that in the northern Yuan, there was a top-level expert in the imperial palace, known as the Heavenly Emperor. This person was not only highly skilled in martial arts but also cold-blooded and ruthless. There are rumors that even if the three tyrants attacked together, they could not defeat this person. Regarding his true identity, there is still no information. Therefore, most people believe this is a rumor. I only know of this one person. Unless there are other experts who emerge unexpectedly like you. Shan Shayu didn't take Hong Wukui's flattery to heart. His mind was filled with the image of her from 10 years ago. Could the Heavenly Emperor be the Yuan dynasty envoy who took Wu Ai away? Hong Wukui secretly observed Shan Shayu for a moment. Seeing that the other party looked composed, he expressed his desire to learn the Heavenly Soul Divine Art. To be honest, I don't know much about the Heavenly Soul Divine Art. My master only said it's a martial art passed down for 1,000 years. Attack the void, evade the real. Follow your heart's desire, there are no fixed moves. So you're saying that the Heavenly Soul Divine skill is just like fighting with thugs? That's not very likely, is it? Naturally, to perfectly utilize the Heavenly Soul Divine skill, you also need to be proficient in human anatomy, meridians, and pressure points. Once you understand these, you will be able to discern your opponent's power application methods and energy pathways, thereby attacking their corresponding weaknesses, to destroy the opponent's musculoskeletal system, and disrupt their flow of qi and blood. Master said that everything in the world has its meridians. With that, Shan Shayu unleashed a powerful strike. His domineering true energy surged forth, striking a rock squarely. Hong Wukui's eyes widened at the sight. Using one's own true energy to sever the meridians of all things. then nothing in the world is unbreakable. Shan Shayu suddenly clenched his left hand into a fist. A powerful internal force immediately erupted. The hard rock shattered with a bang. The surrounding earth trembled. Hong Wu Kuei, caught off guard, fell backward. Lao Chiwan fell to the ground, his face showing fear. Even having witnessed it with his own eyes, he still couldn't believe it. Suddenly, Hong Wu Kuei noticed that his wine gourd had also been knocked over. The precious wine was all spilled. The old beggar angrily accused Shan Shayu of doing it on purpose. Under the moonlight, the old man and the young man argued for a while before resting. Meanwhile, two people in Dali Fortress, Fushun, couldn't sleep. Wan Jixiang and Zhamu Lin sat around a stone table, their faces heavy. The Murong family announced that Murong Dongtian died of heart failure. What do you think about this? Even someone with a little knowledge of martial arts would know. How could a master like Murong Dongtian die of heart failure? It's obvious that Shan Shayu did it. The Murong family is just too ashamed to admit it. Wan Jixiang mentioned that the earlier pursuit team also had friction with Shan Shayu in Benchi. A Dali Fort elite also died from a shattered heart. The Dali Fort master looked regretful. I should have tried to win him over then. Even if you had tried to win him over then, he would have refused. Have you forgotten what he said when he saved us? If you hadn't given those northern nomads sufficient compensation, just the act of using those nomads against the Murong clan alone would have resulted in Dali Fort suffering the same fate as the Murong clan. Fortunately, Shan Shayu wouldn't side with the Five Dragon Alliance. The Lionheart Alliance has gained a formidable new enemy. Murong Dongtian is dead now. This will be a perfect opportunity for Dali Fortress to occupy Shenyang. I have other matters to attend to and see it stay long. I await your good news. Having said that, Zhamu Lin rose and took his leave. This young prodigy of the Lion Alliance wasn't as calm as he appeared. Zhamu Lin was secretly worried in his heart. Is that incredibly skilled young man friend or foe? Meanwhile, in Shenyang City, a man dressed in fighting attire hurried into a restaurant. He went straight to a table in the corner on the second floor. He clasped his fists in a bow, about to speak and report, but was stopped by the man at the table with a raised hand. Quan Dohuan of the Daitian merchant group signaled his subordinate to wait. Now, it's the crucial moment. He then focused his attention on another table not far away. Several diners were gathered around a man. The one-legged man was vividly recounting the battle at Biling Cave that day. That boy had hands as delicate as a woman's, but you can't imagine how terrifyingly strong those hands were. As long as he touched you, your muscles and bones would instantly twist. The entire Black Sword squad was utterly no match for him. He lightly struck the ground with a palm. The entire ice lake of Biling Cave was turned to scorched earth. When I woke up, I found my leg was broken. Because that youth, standing before me, was like a mountain. His overwhelming power rendered me senseless. His aura was like a god of war descending from heaven. That domineering aura, that might to shake the heavens, was simply unstoppable. The onlookers were stunned by the man's story. The man continued his recollection, still shaken. I vaguely heard that he came here to look for a girl. Judging by his accent, he should be from North China. I'm sure. Chen Duhuan's heart skipped a beat at this point. He then calmly asked, Minghui, what do you think of this story? Nian Minghui said the man's story was too exaggerated. Where in the world is there such extraordinary martial arts? There must be a reason for this sudden wind. I must return to Taiyuan immediately. Go and investigate the details of that war god from the Xiabang. Nian Minghui immediately clasped his fists, bowed, and solemnly accepted the order. Now, tell me, what exactly is the cause of Murong Dongtian's death? According to the Murong family, he died of heart failure, but it's unclear whether it was due to illness or external force. There are rumors that he was assassinated. John Duhuan twirled his teacup, lost in thought. Interesting. They don't even dare to announce the cause of the family head's death. I wonder what happened between the Murong family and that war god. Then, his eyes flashed, and he spoke softly. But the nickname war god is a bit too arrogant, isn't it? The old man and the young man traveled from Shenyang to Taiyuan in just 3 days. Hong Wukuei deeply regretted not agreeing to ride horses. He hadn't expected that when he suggested using light skills to travel, the young man before him would run relentlessly for 3 days without rest. After entering Taiyuan Prefecture, the two went to an inn. During the meal, Hong Wukuei briefed Shan Shayu on the black market merchants' information. It turned out that after the Yuan dynasty was defeated and retreated to the north, a large merchant group rose in the Central Plains. The rapid growth of the Great Heaven Merchant Guild has alerted the black market merchants. Therefore, wherever there's a branch of the Great Heaven Merchant Guild, there will certainly be a branch of the black market merchants. And the Great Heaven Merchant Guild has close ties with the horse caravans. Therefore, Hong Wukuei confidently stated that he would definitely help investigate the black market merchants' information. At that moment, a commotion arose from the street. 3 guards were seen blocking a man's path. Shan Shayu looked up, his pupils involuntarily constricting. He saw that the man who had been stopped had a murderous look on his face. Shan Shayu's heart tightened. He keenly sensed the overwhelming killing intent emanating from the other man. Hong Wukui also curiously looked up. Lao Yi's face showed difficulty, indicating that the situation was not good. At that moment, the man who had been stopped spoke loudly. "So it's you. It's young Master Huang. Rumor has it you abused your father's power to murder innocent people. Dozens of women have killed themselves out of shame and hatred because of your humiliation." Conway's killing intent intensified at this point. It hasn't been long since the Yuan people were driven out. You evildoers have started to act tyrannically. Several guards were instantly enraged upon hearing this. They drew their swords and were about to attack. Suddenly, a voice from behind ordered them to stop. Huang Yiwu slowly walked forward. He expressed his willingness to offer a large sum to hire Conway to work for him. Upon hearing this, a cold smile appeared on Conway's lips. "Young Master Huang, I'm afraid you haven't heard of my infernal demon blade." Having said that, Conway flicked his finger against the hilt of his blade. His short sword was drawn from its scabbard with a clang. This blade is forged for slaying demons and eliminating evil. With that, Conway's aura suddenly changed. A chilling sword intent soared into the sky. The guards, upon hearing the name of the Netherworld Demon Blade, instantly changed color. At that moment, several icy glows suddenly arrived. Before several guards could react, they were killed by Conway, who closed in on them and struck them down. Huang Yiwu, seeing this, trembled with fear. He was at a loss for what to do. Meanwhile, Hong Wukui in the restaurant stood up. "Do you want to intervene in this conflict? If what that swordsman said is true, Huang Yiwu is simply not worth saving." Hong Wukui stated that although Huang Yiwu is utterly wicked, his father leads a gang that belongs to the righteous forces. We can't just stand by and watch him die. However, Shan Shayu scoffed at Hong Wukui's statement. "This so-called righteousness is nothing but self-proclaimed. You go yourself." Meanwhile, Conway had already leaped and darted away. He fiercely swung his sword, aiming at Huang Yiwu. The latter was greatly shocked and terrified, his face ashen. Just then, Hong Wukui flew to his side. Lao Qiqiao shouted, "Spare his life." Conway only saw a flash of movement before his eyes. Hong Wukui had already closed in, delivering a swift kick. The latter quickly raised an arm to block. Lao Qiqiao, his first move failing, followed up with several consecutive kicks. Conway's short knife flipped and danced, delivering several slashes. In an instant, the two exchanged several moves, neither gaining the upper hand. Suddenly, Hong Wukui seized an opening and unleashed a powerful palm strike. Conway, unable to react in time, received the palm strike to his chest. He immediately flew backward like a broken kite. Conway retreated several meters, bending at the waist to regain his balance. A serious expression appeared on the face of the underworld demon blade wielder. Then, he gently hooked a finger. He removed the ring from the hilt of his blade. A fierce glint flashed in the swordsman's eyes. He then flung the short blade away with a forceful movement. The short blade whistled through the air, heading straight for Hong Wukui's throat. Lao Qiqiao quickly kicked the blade away. Seizing the opportunity, he shouted in a deep voice, "Young hero, please hold your hand. I only want you to spare his life." But he didn't notice a silver thread tied to the hilt of the short dagger. Conway didn't answer. He reached out to catch the dagger kicked back, then suddenly spread his arms wide. The almost invisible silver thread quietly fell around Hong Wukui. By the time the old man noticed the tightening silver thread, it was too late. Conway let out a cold laugh and said coldly, "I've got you." With that, he suddenly clenched his left hand. The knife ring pulled the silver thread, tightening suddenly. Hong Wukui immediately felt as if he were bound tightly by a strange thing. Conway's toes tapped the ground. Holding a short knife, he violently charged forward, directly attacking Hong Wukui. Shan Shayu, who had been paying attention to the situation on the field, narrowed his eyes. The boy annealed his surging inner energy into his palm. He then swiftly snatched up a pair of chopsticks from the table. Shan Shayu flicked his wrist. The two chopsticks shot out like arrows from a bow. The next second, the two chopsticks precisely severed the silver thread. Hong Wukui quickly broke free from the silver thread's restraint. He then looked at his opponent with lingering fear. Conway, his balance unsteady, stumbled backward several steps. The swordsman's face showed disbelief and astonishment. His silver thread, even the finest swords couldn't easily cut. Now, it's been broken by a pair of chopsticks. Thinking of this, Conway was furious. Who is sneak attacking in the shadows? Dare you come out and fight fairly? He looked in the direction from which the chopsticks came, but he saw no one at the tavern window. Just then, a hand pressed down on his shoulder. A calm voice sounded in his ear. "Fair and square." Then, is using hidden weapons considered fair and square by you? Shan Shayu's eyes were calm as he spoke slowly. "Let's call it a day, how about that?" Someone suddenly appeared behind him. Conway was startled. Immediately, he raised his short dagger, aiming it at the person behind him. "It seems you're determined to fight." Having said that, Shan Shayu spun, dodging the short knife. Using the power of the spin, he launched a powerful kick, sweeping across. Conway hadn't even seen the boy's move. When he was struck in the face, the immense force sent him flying. Before he could land, Shan Xiaoyu closed in, advancing swiftly. His left hand suddenly reached out and grasped the other's wrist. Immediately, his right hand seized Conway's shoulder. The young man exerted force with both hands. A crisp sound immediately came from the latter's arm. Shan Xiaoyu ignored Conway's cry of pain. His left hand shot out, striking the other's back. The latter's short knife fell from his hand. He was then sent flying. Conway tumbled to the ground, rolling several meters. The swordsman, gritting his teeth against the pain, used a rolling technique to stand up. Conway's heart was filled with fear. The boy's moves were erratic and unpredictable. He couldn't possibly track them. Just then, the short dagger hurtled towards him. It was aimed directly at his forehead. The man was a renowned, top-tier swordsman. Even the esteemed leader of the Xie gang was no match for him. But now, he's about to be killed by his own dagger. Conway managed to dodge the swiftly thrown dagger by ducking his head with all his might. Seeing this, Shan Xiaoyu couldn't help but smile slightly. He pinched the dagger between two fingers, bringing it before him. Blue chi energy swirled and pulsed at his fingertips. With a slight movement of his two fingers, the powerful chi energy attached to the dagger exploded with a bang. Conway hastily raised his arms to protect his face, but he was still blown away by the powerful force. He flew back like a broken kite for more than 10 meters. He crashed into a wall before stopping. Meanwhile, Hong Wukue examined the silver thread, lost in thought. He discovered that the so-called silver thread was actually made of diamond. The leader of the Xie Bang felt a tremor in his heart. A flash of inspiration passed through his mind. On the other battlefield, before Conway could adjust his breath, Shan Xiaoyu's eyes flashed with cold light. He immediately leaped towards Conway. The young man's palms were held together at his sides. He kneeled his powerful inner energy into his palms. Terror showed on Conway's face, and he thought to himself, my life is over. But at that moment, Hong Wukue suddenly shouted loudly, Young Master Shan, spare him. Shan Xiaoyu's expression changed upon hearing this, but it was already too late to retract his move. A thunderous palm strike was unleashed. The next second, the wall collapsed with a loud bang, and dust filled the air. Hong Wukue was dumbfounded at this sight. After that palm strike, the other party should have been reduced to nothing but bones. But unexpectedly, at the last moment, Shan Xiaoyu shifted his palms by a foot. He narrowly avoided Conway's head. Conway, a survivor of the disaster, stared wide-eyed, his pupils constricting. Shan Xiaoyu spoke slowly. Let's end this here today. The young man changed his tone. Or are you still pinning your hopes on your accomplices? Conway's expression hardened at this. When did you find out? Meanwhile, 100 meters away, on a tall building, a man in a wide-brimmed hat, holding a bow and arrow, stands on a rooftop. He watches the situation below, muttering to himself. To have such skill at such a young age is truly remarkable. But before the thousand-step divine bow, he's nothing more than a target. The man knocks an arrow, aiming at the young man in the distance. Rising stars in the martial world are as numerous as the fish in the river. Rest in peace. Having said that, the man slowly closes his eyes. After counting his breaths, a sharp light shot from the man's eyes. His internal energy suddenly erupted, surging through his limbs and body. In an instant, the scene within a radius of dozens of meters became crystal clear. He could even perceive the slightest fluctuations of chi hundreds of meters away. Unexpectedly, at that moment, a clear voice reached the man's ears. I advise you to stop. The man in the bamboo hat's face changed drastically. That young man could actually use long-range voice transmission. Perhaps you still don't understand. I've already let you off once. Don't test my patience again. These words caused the man's eyes to widen in disbelief, but he was still persistent, preparing to pierce the boy's skull with an arrow. Shan Xiaoyu turned his head, his face frosty, his eyes cold and sweeping. A cold light flashed in the boy's eyes. Immediately, his aura suddenly surged. The domineering and powerful internal force surged out, centered on Shan Xiaoyu. The man in the straw hat felt a gust of wind rush towards him. It blew him off balance, causing him to stagger backward. His straw hat also flew off into the air. The man forcibly steadied himself, his heart trembling. After a moment, the man let out a dry laugh. Then, he clasped his fists in a bow and transmitted his voice back. Your skill is superb. I am in awe. I'll seek instruction from you another day. Shan Xiaoyu stared at the man in silence. Just then, Hong Wukue approached. Shan Xiaoyu was staring intently at the distant roof ridge. But by then, the man in the straw hat had already disappeared. Lao Yi saw the youth's serious expression and couldn't help but ask. After a long silence, Shan Xiaoyu said there was nothing else. Seeing this, Hong Wukue said nothing more. He immediately led Shan Xiaoyu up the mountain, during which, Shan Xiaoyu asked why he had been told to hold back earlier. Hong Wukue explained it was because of the silver thread Conway used. You don't know. That thread is made of diamond. It's still the unique WQ of assassins from the Dark Merchant Guild. Just by monitoring him, we can obtain much information about the black merchants. Shan Xiaoyu, however, pointed out that if Conway teamed up with his accomplices, even he might not easily win. Hong Wukue was greatly surprised to hear this. He has accomplices. That's right, he's been watching you since you started. If he had also made a move at that time. However, Hong Wukue didn't pay much attention to the boy's words. He stated that with Shan Shayu, he wasn't worried at all. Following Hong Wukue, the two ascended the steps to a mountain gate. Reaching the foot of the mountain gate, Shan Shayu looked up. He saw that the plaque above the gate was blank. Hong Wukue explained that this was the Taiyuan branch of the Xiabang. The blank plaque was because the Xiabang valued chivalry. Anyone without a place to stay could rest here. As they spoke, the two entered a dilapidated temple. Hong Wukue said that this was the Xiabang's branch. Having said that, the old beggar pressed a stone brick on the wall. Immediately, a hidden stone door slowly slid open. Shan Shayu followed Hong Wukue through the door. Immediately, the sound of many bamboo sticks striking came. The numerous members of the Gong Bang clasped their fists in a respectful greeting. Hong Wukue looked at the scene with pride. In the spacious square, thousands of members of the Xiabang were gathered. On the surface, it was a dilapidated temple, but no one could have imagined the secret mechanism hidden behind it. Shan Shayu never dreamed this was the branch of the formidable Xiabang. Hong Wukue led Shan Shayu to a secret room, and introduced him to the situation here. It turned out that the Taiyuan branch was responsible for collecting all intelligence from the Central Plains. And after verifying this intelligence, it was reported to the main headquarters. Because the Yuan dynasty envoy taking Wu Ai Jiawei was 10 years ago, the relevant information has already been sent to the main headquarters. So Hong Wukue has sent someone to the headquarters to contact them. Then Lao Ji called Zhang Sui, the sub-leader of the branch. He asked if she had gathered any intelligence on the black merchants. She replied that the boss of the Taiyuan black merchant branch is named Lian Si. He's not only a shrewd businessman but also highly skilled in martial arts. What's most troublesome is that he's extremely cautious. He doesn't fully trust even his closest associates. Therefore, nobody knows his whereabouts. DZ, who's helping to divide the compartments, is trying his best to find out about him. Do you really intend to make an enemy of the black market merchants? They have close ties with the Five Dragons Alliance. If you openly confront Yundan, your future days will be difficult. Hearing this, Shan Shayu smiled slightly. Are you worried that I'll go straight to their door and kill them? Hong Wukue said that it's highly likely, given Shan Shayu's personality. Also, the swordsman the elder asked us to investigate has been identified. It's definitely the underworld demon Blade. The person is currently imprisoned and awaiting judgment. Hong Wukue's face was shocked when he heard the news. If it really is him, then it'll be trouble. Meanwhile, in the dark prison of Taiyuan Prefecture, Kong Wei sat cross-legged, muttering to himself. Demons and heretics must be eliminated, without leaving a single one. The underworld demon Blade's forehead bulged with veins. His expression grew increasingly frantic. Suddenly, Conway's eyes widened, and he roared. Evil demons must be eradicated. Having said that, Conway's twig-like arms suddenly swelled. His originally thin frame bizarrely ballooned several times in size. The prison guards, hearing the commotion, paused slightly. At this moment, Conway in the cell flicked his wrist. The silver thread hidden on his body shot out. Two prison guards came to investigate the sound, but they didn't notice a thread wrapping around the prison door. The next second, the prison door was shattered by the silver thread. Shattered wood chips scattered everywhere. Conway continued to mutter incessantly. It is also a demon that prevents the extermination of demons. The guards were so scared by what they saw that they collapsed on the ground. Conway, like a demon god descended to earth, spoke coldly. You demons, you all deserve to die. Shan Shayu, seeing Hong Wukue's grave expression, couldn't help but glance over. You've heard of him. Indeed. He's infamous throughout the martial arts world. Legend says Conway, the wielder of the underworld demon blade, is over 7 feet tall, and uses a 5-foot-long sword. He's one of the 5 great guests of the Five Dragons Alliance. His cultivation ranks among the top 5 in the Five Dragons League. The problem is he has some mental issues. He has a near-fanatical pursuit of justice. What's more terrifying is that he has his own definition of justice. He judges justice based on his own subjective judgment, and he metes out swift and decisive punishment to those he deems demonic and heretical. Conway barged out of the prison, crashing through everything in his path. Outside the cell, the bodies of the guards lay scattered everywhere. A man in A, holding a longbow, stood proudly. Seeing this, the netherworld demon blade calmed down slightly. Yin Daoyang, the master of the Iron Odd Bow, spoke coldly. I had no choice, the situation was urgent. Having said that, the man in the threw the long sword on his back towards Conway. The latter caught it and asked what was so urgent. Lian Si is looking for you. It seems to be something related to the Five Dragon Alliance and the Black Merchants. Conway drew his long sword, his tone grim. It's nothing more than making me wipe their faces. Let him wait. I have some things to deal with first. Having said that, Conway shook the long sword in his hand and turned to leave. Meanwhile, within the Hexiang sect, Huang Yiwu's fat hand slammed onto the table. The young master of the Hexiang sect spoke vehemently. Your son almost got killed. And you're so unconcerned. Locking him up means nothing. Killing him would be a simple matter for you. Sect leader Huang Du scolded angrily. It's all because of your arrogance and recklessness. Do you know how much trouble you've caused our crane-soaring sect? Those short-lived fools brought it upon themselves. What does it have to do with me? Am I even your real son? Seeing his son in such a sorry state, Huang Duzheng slumped in his chair, sighing deeply. Meanwhile, a gleam flashed in Huang Yiwu's eyes. He abruptly turned and strode out the door, shouting at the top of his lungs. Crane-soaring sect, listen up. I am the young master of the crane-soaring sect. Anyone who bullies us is slapping the face of the crane-soaring sect. Come with me to the prison and we'll smash that HD to smithereens. Having said that, Huang Yiwu led the way towards the main gate. A group of Xiang Pai members followed closely behind. Unexpectedly, as soon as he pushed open the gang's gate, he saw a burly man, like an iron tower, blocking the way. Conway's face showed a fierce smile. Huang Yiwu didn't have time to react. A flash of cold light came down on him from above. The next second, the young master of Xiang sect was cut in two. The sword energy continued unabated, sending everyone behind him flying. Huang Duzheng in the hall was filled with grief and indignation at the sight. The sect master roared, drawing his long sword. He then violently charged towards Conway in the courtyard. The latter, holding his hands, smiled darkly. Huang Duzheng, you are the one who gave birth to this little darling. You are the root of all evil. Huang Duzheng lightly touched his toes to the flying wood chips. His bulky body leaped lightly into the air. He then used the momentum of his descent to fiercely slash down with his sword. Conway, unfazed, raised his sword and met the blow. The two swords clashed. The sound of clashing metal exploded in the air. Conway spoke with madness in his voice. So the crane-soaring school is also a demonic cult. I must eliminate you today. Having said that, Conway suddenly increased his strength. He forcefully knocked Huang Duzheng back. Huang Duzheng spun like a top, rotating repeatedly. Then, he used one hand to grab the ground, his 5 fingers digging into the earth. The sect leader retreated several meters before he managed to regain his balance. Huang Duzheng's face was filled with anger. Our crane-soaring sect has always acted uprightly. It's common knowledge throughout Taiyuan Prefecture. Conway let out a surprised laugh. I only believe my own judgment. Seeing this, Huang Duzheng said no more. His true qi burst forth from his body. The surging true qi, under his control, actually condensed into qi. Conway's pupils constricted slightly upon seeing Jin's actions. He didn't expect the sect master to possess such methods. Sword-like qi condensed around Huang Duzheng. The Xiang sect leader, with a flick of his hand and a sword gesture, unleashed them. The qi swords shot out like locusts. Several qi swords, carrying the force of wind and thunder, hurtled towards Conway several zhang away. Seeing the situation, Conway dared not be careless. He first used a Su Qin backstep to deflect a sword aimed at his back. Then, he used a move to break apart the qi swords that were directly attacking his face. Conway's eyes were fierce and cold as he spoke. Old man, is this all you've got? A renowned martial arts leader, half dead from anger at his own son, but when his worthless son is beaten up by someone else, Huang Duzheng explodes with fury, transforming into a ferocious tiger descending the mountain. Seeing several streams of energy shoot towards him, Conway's long sword dances so swiftly and densely that he deflects all the energy swords. Huang Duzheng's fierce attack leaves Conway unscathed. All the crane-soaring sect disciples were dumbfounded, their faces changing color. Huang Duzheng couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. The crane-soaring sect's leader clenched his teeth, his mouth twitching. He immediately poured his inner energy into his long sword. A tremendous amount of inner energy could be seen on the sword, condensing into a giant energy sword. Conway was slightly startled by this sight. Huang Duzheng, at this moment, was even more shocked. He leaped forward, directly toward Conway. The latter grinned grimly. This looks pretty good this time. Conway suddenly took a large step backward. Then, he bent over, placing his long sword at his side. The underworld demon blade let out a furious roar. But this level of attack is still insignificant. Conway roared angrily. Twisting at the waist and turning, he kneeled the power of his waist and legs into a horizontal sweep of his sword. A fierce and domineering sword energy surged forth. Huang Duzheng, suspended in midair, was struck with terror. The sect leader had no time to retract his move or dodge. The sword energy darted towards him in the blink of an eye. It cleaved Huang Duzheng in two at the waist. The sword energy continued unabated. Even the small building behind Huang Duzheng was leveled by the sword. A deafening roar shattered the night sky over Taiyuan Prefecture. Meanwhile, at the Qiao Gang branch, Shan Shayu and Han Wukue sat around a bonfire. Lao Chigai proudly introduced the gang's dark cuisine. Shan Shayu, however, looked disgusted at the strange smell emanating from the iron pot. At that moment, a Qiao Gang member whispered a report in Zhang Sui's ear. Upon hearing this, her expression darkened. Seeing this, Shan Shayu and the other turned to ask what had happened. Zhang Sui's face was grave. She stated that the Xiang faction had been wiped out by Conway. Upon hearing this, both the old and young men were startled. Meanwhile, In a gambling house in Taiyuan Prefecture, Kong Wei slowly entered the building, his aura murderous. After reaching the second floor, Kong Wei stared at the gamblers downstairs, lost in thought. At that moment, a low, husky voice came from behind him. A shop assistant clasped his fists in a bow and said respectfully, "Master Kong, the owner is waiting for you inside." After speaking, the assistant led Kong Wei towards the back room of the gambling house. The two, one in front of the other, arrived at a secluded private room. The assistant expertly turned a bronze statue on the table. A hidden door slowly opened in the wall of the private room. The assistant bowed, gesturing for Kong Wei to enter. Inside the secret room, a man in red robes was nestled in a long chair. Seeing Kong Wei enter, the man slowly spoke. "It's an honor to have the Mo Manor Demon Blade here." Kong Wei looked around briefly and softly praised. The owner really did pick a good place. Then his expression darkened, and he got straight to the point. "Speak. What is it you wanted me here for?" Upon hearing this, Lien Si didn't bother with pleasantries, and directly stated that he had asked Kong Wei to come for a favor. Kong Wei's eyes turned cold. "But is it an order from the Five Dragons Alliance?" Lien Si frankly stated that this concerned his private matters, but it would also benefit the Five Dragons Alliance. Upon hearing this, Kong Wei understood. Immediately, he turned to leave. "Since it's not an order from the Five Dragons Alliance, then I don't need to take your orders. Farewell." Unexpectedly, Lien Si, with a confident air, softly spoke.